welcome you back, and don't go anywhere when we go off the air. It's finally happening, the SEC football schedule reveal. We've had week 1, and then Daria and company will take you through the final weekend, and it should be really exciting. It finally feels like college football season is here. SEC Now follows us for your pleasure. And we welcome you back, and let's get some more calls here, and it's going to be quite an evening. It's already been quite a day. Pat is next in St. Louis. Hey, Pat.
Hey, Paul. Hi. I'm calling about my Mizzou Tigers. We were treated so poorly last year by the NCAA, and the entire country knows it. Not being allowed to go to our bowl game when our record was 6-6. Much better than 4 SEC teams. Anyway, Mississippi State, who, by the way, had the same problem with the NCAA as Mizzou, only they had 11 athletes and we had 12 with the tutor. Mizzou, unfortunately, had to petition, and Ole Miss just got to they just bargained their way out of it. So for Mizzou to get both Alabama and LSU when other schools had worse season records proves the bias against Mizzou. And I told my husband this weekend that since the schedules weren't announced last Friday, that the big boys will come to Missouri for the first few games when the weather is cold and will not affect the outcome of the chosen ones being Alabama, LSU, and Georgia. So that's, again, just providing more bias against Mizzou. You know, it's not fun to come into a conference and be the orange-headed, orange-whatever stepchild. We are a university that has a lot of pride, and we are a state that has a lot of pride. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your call, and I understand the frustration. You do get Alabama at home. Missouri has been in this conference for, got in 2012, so some of this should be wearing off. But I think Missouri has really brought a lot to the table. I think from all sports, and I have rarely, if ever, seen a greater miscarriage of justice than what we saw last year with the NCAA. That was just frightening and borderline criminal what happened to Mizzou. But I don't know what the rest of the schedule looks like. You did not get a good hand, I'll tell you that. Let's take a break. Another hour to go. We'll spend most of that time talking to you, and as we get ready for the entire SEC schedule to be revealed.
If you like country music and star-studded award shows, then you'll love 5-Hour Energy's CMA Awards sweepstakes. 5-Hour Energy wants to send you and a guest to Music City to bask in the glow of music's brightest stars at the 2020 CMA Awards. To enter, buy any 5-Hour Energy product, snap a picture of the receipt, and upload it. For official rules and how to enter without purchase, go to 5hecountry.com. Sweepstakes ends October 10th, 2020. Must be U.S. resident 18 years or older. Void where prohibited. Sponsored by Living Essentials, LLC.
It could be a routine drive to pick up the kids after school or an epic road trip across the country. No matter where your travels take you, we know those miles count. We're Marathon. We have over 5,700 stations across our great nation. Our people are working hard every day to provide you with quality top-tier gasoline to improve engine performance and fuel your life. Marathon, fueling the American spirit.
For your Gulf Coast Sports Minute, I'm JP. Due to the weather on Friday, Five Flags Speedway had to postpone the race to this Friday. If you purchase pit armbands or grandstand tickets, those will be available to exchange for this Friday. For everyone else, it's $5 admission night and, more importantly, Demolition Derby night. Along with the Derby, the Outlaws return as well as the Truck Series and Pure Stock, so come on out to the Speedway on Friday for another great night of racing. In our recruiting spotlight this week, Tavian Dale for the Washington Wildcats. The 5'11", 210-pound linebacker had 122 tackles in his junior season and was an integral part of the Wildcats' resurgence in 2019. With a blue-gray game invite already, you know colleges are hot on his trail, including Middle Tennessee. Coach Whitten raves about Dale and the fact that COVID-19 didn't slow this young man down, as he basically lived in the weight room over the spring. Tabian is ready for the upcoming year, and where most would be happy turning around and having the season they had last year, it seems Dale and the Wildcats are out to win it all, and they know what it takes. That's your Gulf Coast Sports Minute. I'm JP.
The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Hey, what's up? Chad here from the Sports Drive. Well, 2020 was off to a great start.
Salud.
UWF national title parades in Mardi Gras.
Come on, let's have a good time, roll.
Coach O and the real Tiger King Joe Burrow winning a national title.
Go Tigers.
And the Blue Wahoo season about to start. But then Tom Brady, after 2 decades of success, decides to mess with history.
You are fake news. Go ahead.
And becomes a Buccaneer. Oh, what was that? Oh, COVID-19 happened. I'm sorry.
I can't take it no more.
And it was a little bit of a rough spring and summer.
It's something that won't go away.
But now the major sports are back. The bubbles are working. The league's in the bubble. Don't have your kids blow them. Some might see those as viral mucus balls coming at their house.
No more.
No more. No more.
Scary, isn't it? And football will return.
Foosball.
Maybe not all of our favorite teams, but there will be football this fall.
Gotta keep our composure.
But we'd like to thank all of our listeners through these challenging times for staying with us as your hometown leader in sports, right here on ESPN Pensacola. Thank you, and stay safe, my friends.
For This Week in Sports History, I'm JP. In 1920, Ray Chapman was hit in the head by a pitch thrown by Yankees pitcher Carl Mays and died 12 hours later. He is the only Major League Baseball player to die from an injury received during an MLB game. His death led Major League Baseball to establish a rule requiring umpires to replace the ball whenever it becomes dirty. Chapman's death and sanitary concerns also led to the ban on the spitball after the 1920 season. Chapman's death was one of the examples cited to justify the wear of batting helmets. However, it took over 30 years to adopt the rule that requires their use. In 1973, Willie Mays hits his 660th and last home run. 1977, Dodgers pitcher and Tate High School alum Don Sutton throws his NL record-tying 5th one-hitter. In 2003, Cristiano Ronaldo makes his debut for Manchester United in the Premier League in a 4-0 home victory over Bolton Wanderers. That's This Week in Sports History. I'm JP.
Bowling is a sport that will last you a lifetime, and at Cordova Lanes on Airport Boulevard, every night there is something exciting happening. Like on Tuesday and Thursday, it's penny a pin. Bowl 100, pay $1. Or how about starting your weekend off right by reserving a lane for just $25 at Moonlight Bowling. Enjoy a fresh-made pizza and the lowest pitcher prices in Pensacola. So what are you waiting for? It's time to roll your way into Cordova Lanes and experience fun like never before.
This is ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Pensacola's home for hometown sports. Your home to talk football with Coach K, Sports Drive with Chad Brillante, and Sports Call with Davis Allen. If you'd like to partner with ESPN Pensacola or become a sponsor, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Coming up on the Sports Drive, well, schedules to talk about as we'll break down the SEC and also in the NFL, Arrowhead. Right there, the frozen 25 degrees at about 20% capacity.
Emmitt Smith has just become the NFL's all-time leading rusher.
Across the middle, it is caught for the first. It's Baldwin shaking free and sprinting down the sideline for the touchdown. His third of the day. Doug Baldwin.
Derek Brooks, who ran back 3 interceptions for touchdowns in the regular season, does it to cement the Super Bowl.
Boxing's elite, the new WBA heavyweight champion of the world, Roy Jones Jr.
Baldwin beaten. The result has come up on screens that Gatlin's taken it. Goodness me, it was a blue American vest, 992 the Gatlin. 992 by the American champion to take gold.
Another Watson is wearing a green jacket at Augusta. And this time, His name is Bubba.
Bama scores on a 34-yard touchdown run by the Doak Walker Award winner, Trent Richardson, who broke a lot of Emmitt Smith's records back in Pensacola, Florida.
And welcome into the Sports Drive right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM, simulcast each and every day on Blab TV. Well, good day. I mean, usually you get those cliche answers in sports and, this is going to be another great day of games. We have so many great games to get to. You know what? It hasn't been that way. Last 4 months have been absolute garbage when it comes to actually saying that, because outside of if you're a fan of usually soccer games where you might know a few players, or Australian AFL rugby-like football, Aussie League, we haven't been able to get that. Well, today, the NBA playoffs. And already the first game going to overtime, Mike Conley. And if you're going to miss a game, it probably should be because of having a child. Now, personally, that would be a little creepy if you were the one doing that. Sounds like some science experiment. But his wife is having a kid. They're having a kid, and he's going to be there. All I have to say on that, and joining me as well, co-host, you can hear him on Talk Football with Coach K each and every afternoon. How many years would Phillip Rivers have missed of his contract if he did that? I mean, he might never – he would only play like 3 games a year if he missed every birth.
That's accurate.
I mean, I don't think he would ever
He's a small army.
He would just have to say, can we do FaceTime? Honey,
but he would just have to plan out when they're going to go about their personal business. Like, all right, honey, we can't do this now. This messes up with a game we're going to play in Green Bay, so we can't do that.
That's right.
It's not going to work.
It's a barometer. Like, against Cincinnati, it's a chart. Like, the chart level is like, I can go against Cincy because even our backup plan, like even Ryan Leaf at one time, like, we'll go with that, or anybody but. But if you're playing against the Pats or someone like that, playoffs, no dice. We're zooming in. We're FaceTiming. None of that. No chance. Looking at the big news, though, this week, well, it looks like the Big Ten, some of the teams in it aren't out of the clear just yet of not playing this season. So that's a good thing. I saw that tweet about, 9:30 when we sent it on, was that Friday or Saturday? I think it was Saturday night.
Saturday, yeah.
We got a group of all of us that have co-hosted the show, and it was sent, and at that time it looked like they were giving the leeway. Now we know it really wasn't anything to do with the Big Ten outside of Justin Fields wants the petition and the possibility. I'd be okay with that. Even as the Big Ten, they should accept that if they're not going to play this season, that they should allow those guys to go play. Now, that's a perfect world. We hold hands, sing Kumbaya. I also got to be real. Any business that's used to making a ton of cash on things and that person leaves them, they usually don't be like, oh, you know what? You know what, sweetie? Here's some cookies. Go ahead. Like the Big Ten, if they have nothing to gain from it, then they're probably not going to do it. And in this case, though, it would be great for a year if teams like Michigan, Ohio State, the Iowas can join a Big 12, an AAC. Give us that battle instead of making it Cincy.
Then you guys would say,
you know what I'm saying?
Hey,
listen,
Power 5?
if we won the AAC and it was Michigan or Penn State, I didn't put Ohio State for a reason in there, but if you put one of these teams in there and we won that, yeah, give us a shot.
I mean,
the Big Four now, right? We're not a Power Four?
Well, no, you would be a part of the – if the Big Ten – well, it'd be Power 4 because Pac-12 be out, which Pac-12, for all I care now, can just stay out. They haven't been a contender anyway.
You're a Gator fan now anyways.
Yeah, go Gators.
Go Gators.
Go Gators. Yep.
Yeah, week 1, they've got their schedule released.
By the way, did you just hear the Missouri fans are already chiming because they got Alabama week 1 at home? Just like, what a way to ruin your pandemic. You're so excited for football coming back. Who do we got, honey? Oh, we got the Crimson Tide.
Wouldn't you rather, though? You're right. And Missouri's going to have a lot of losses on the schedule this year. But I think Eli Drinkwitz's a pretty good coach, though. I mean, he did a solid job at App State. He beat a couple teams on their schedule this year, like South Carolina. But do you think, personally, I would rather take the chance of playing one of those teams week 1 where both of you might have had just completely, we don't know what's going on, which no Nick Saban team's not prepared for this game. And even if they are, you could go to like the old Ask Madden on 3rd and inches. And what Madden never did on 3rd and inches is run a reverse. It was always like, Ask Madden, 3rd down and 2. Bo Jackson, okay, just halfback gut. Like, we all know that Nick Saban and them can run over that team and win. Now, Missouri's got some decent defense players. They always have. I just think I would rather play a team week 1 where you both, after COVID, after everything that happened, be like, not too many fans in Tuscaloosa. Who knows what's going to happen? And you show up there and you might be able to pull off that week 1 where, like, a team – remember when Tennessee played BYU and what was it, Georgia State, and they lost? The Tennessee team at the end of the year that was very competitive and beat some good teams, they would have got smoked. All of this being said, I'm trying to be nice to Missouri and saying I would rather them play week 1 than like week 9 when you know you stink, which is going to be inevitable, and they're going to be really awesome. That's the only thing I can say.
It's not bad.
It's a pick-me-up for the right fielder. It's a pick-me-up for the right fielder.
I would rather have film because what are you going to get with the quarterback situation? You got Mac Jones. You got the other – I haven't said his name in a while. What is his name?
Bryce Lewis?
No, is it Bryce Lewis?
Bryce Young. You're talking about Bryce Young. Okay,
Bryce Young. Jeez, I was saying that name for so many weeks in a row, and I haven't said it in a while. But who you going to get? You still got 2 first-round wide receivers that are there. Najee Harris is back. I'd like to see how that offense is going to look. Regardless, yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm not against what you're saying, but you're doomed. You're just doomed anyway. Like, Ohio or Missouri is not going to pull this off.
No.
Hey, it is what it is. I mean, you could always be Arkansas, but
well, the week 1 schedules have been released. They will release the rest of the season.
Go Gators.
Coming up here.
6
okay,
o'clock.
There you go. 6 o'clock tonight. Oh, it's a big moment for you here.
It is. I'm excited to see what my Gators are going to do this year.
By the way, there's a lot of websites out there. Most people have had time to search plenty of places. You can join chat groups and other things. There's one that's actually ESPN. And the N is not actually, it's like spelled out ENN, like ESPN, like you get some yen. And the thing is, don't buy into all this and think that everything that's posted is like actually from somebody. Not to say everything posted these days from SportsCenter or ESPN you want to read. I've been watching the same sometimes garbage that you're watching on TV where they don't talk sports for 45 minutes. But what I will say, though, is just because somebody puts like a cool little logo at the bottom and puts big, bold lettering that looks cooler than what you do on Microsoft Word, don't believe it came from an accurate source because somebody was like, Kyle Trask, Heisman favorite. And I'm seeing like 7,000 people that are clicking on this being like, where did you get that information? Where did you? Because even if Justin Fields is out of the picture, there's zero chance that he's ahead of Trevor Lawrence. So already, let's nix that.
Please don't talk bad about my quarterback.
I think Trevor Lawrence. No, first off, calm down. Trevor Lawrence. I like Kyle Trask. I like Kyle Trask. I think honestly, he's gonna his mobility. I think it's funny when they run like a QB draw against Georgia. It looked like a bunch of wolves that just got fed at the zoo for the first time. Like, are there wolves at the zoo? But you throw them out there, and then they just the whole Georgia defense just swarmed on him. And there was nothing he could do. There's bees everywhere, just swarm all over. But you put him in a spread offense, 5 guys with the guys like Pitts and some of the guys that will be returning. Jacob Copeland, I know.
Him and Kadarius Toney who knows what they're going to do. They sat out today at practice.
I saw that.
Whatever.
Now? What's the biggest issue of why he's doing that? He's saying for safety. Okay,
no.
Money.
Yeah, it's that whole movement, like all these teams making money off of their likeness and all that kind of stuff. It's the Pac-12 thing. That's what he said on his Twitter. That's what he's giving off. It's funny though because you look at Dan Mullen and look, we both covered Jacob Copeland. We know how talented he is, but at the same time, I don't know. My thing is this has been going on for quite some time. So why last minute? But whatever. That's your own decision.
He's not going to win that battle in the.
Dan Mullen is basically like, well, we're flexible. We'll just move on. Like we had some guys sit out, and if they want to sit out, that I'll support them. But we got to go.
If you had to make the Fab Five of like Florida Gators that can be on that list to make that comment, like we said, we root him on, but he's not on that list. Like he still has a little ways to go. He's talented. He's talented enough to play.
His first time to be a true starter. we've
saying.
seen him play a little bit, and Kadarius Toney is a guy that, but I was coaching when I coached against Kadarius Toney when he was at Blount, and he was a quarterback, and that whole Blount team was freaking believable.
Yeah, he would smoke at Blount big time.
And he is wow.
No, he was awesome.
Wow.
He was smoking. He was hot. You know how fast he is? Like 4.3? Is it 4.3? No, continue. Okay, continue.
But that just threw me for a loop. But anyway, that he's a heck of an athlete, but yet there's no consistency there. Jacob Copeland, you were hoping that now is finally his opportunity to go play. I don't know. This is what I've read is scouts want to see Copeland play full time because there's plenty of guys that have the athleticism that are really good. Mm-hmm. But they can't play in a game. They can't figure it out. Pressure's on, whatever. You look good when you're sitting here on the side. And that's what a lot of these scouts are things that I've read about. And these are just scouts. This is not my take because I have nothing to say to this. I could care less. I hope he succeeds.
On your own team, too.
I know. Well, I
know.
Look, I forget. This is my team.
A week and a half in. I know. You need to get more emotional on this.
I got to get it pumped up. But anyway.
We got a true alumni following you today. And,
I know.
And he's going to come in and be like, I know JP's team. Now I'm part
See, he knows the team. He is the Gators. I'm just piggybacking on it, hoping everything works out. But
George Costanza it. If you believe it, it's true.
Well, the thing is with Copeland, though, is like these scouts want to see. They say we love the intangibles about him, but we want to see it on the field. They know how good he can be off the field and everything like that. But, we'll see. And now I think, look, I understand. I disagree. I've said this before with the whole movement thing. I get it, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm not the one out there. So, regardless of that, I think he could be making a big mistake when it comes to his future. That's all I'm saying. It's his life. It's the way he wants to do things. I mean, nothing against him. I mean, nothing against anybody that wants to sit out because they want to get paid and things like this. I just think in his situation, from things that this is all purely what I've read. That's all that I'm going off of, not my own personal opinion, because that doesn't mean anything. I think he could be making a big mistake if he sits out. I really do.
I don't think he will either.
See that.
I don't think he will.
I would hate to see that because he has the potential to be really, really good, and this is his opportunity to shine with Florida. He's got a good quarterback. How long has it been since we've said Florida's finally got that quarterback that we can believe in? It's been a little while. Yeah. You can go back to your Tebow days and things like that. It's just
go back to Austin Appleby. I think you're talking. Yeah, it's been a while since that.
So I mean, this is a huge opportunity, but I don't think he'll sit out either. But I don't know. I mean,
okay, but first off, you also need to understand that I'm not 100% buying into that either because people are putting out Warren Thompson, Florida State receiver, immediately has apologized now. And if somebody really is attacking you or you're not getting the right, they're treating you where you feel unsafe, those kind of things. If somebody walks up to the mic like, I don't feel safe working here. Right now I work on an assembly line that every time they shoot a toy from there, instead of landing on the rack, it comes flying at my face at 80 miles per hour. I'd rather not work at this toy store anymore, okay? You guys okay? Like, in a week, if they haven't fixed it, you're not going to come out and be like, guys, everything's good. Got a couple black eyes, but we're good. We're good, bro. Because Warren, everybody today wants to try to bite because that's the times we live in. You say one thing, and first off, like a Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm, he seems like a decent person, but his tweet was not decent at all.
Not at all.
And because he put that out there, everybody first now thinks Jake Fromm and thinks that. They don't think twice almost winning a national title at Georgia or being a guy that was within the Heisman race, a good man of faith, a guy that seemed to do the right things when he was at school. Instead, they're going to go to pretty much he talked about being a gun owner and like, don't give it to black people because that wouldn't be good. That was the gist of his tweet. Like, we don't want black people owning guns. And guess what? Now he's only going to be looked at as that guy, third stringer for the Bills that said that comment. That's the thing is we need to understand that the people that have said things, tweeting something these days or putting it on social media can be just as detrimental because we've seen in a world we're living in right now. Well, Warren Thompson put out there that he was expressing concern that he did not feel safe with the football program, that they pretty much just told him to just, we don't need to talk to you. We're good. We're going to continue hiding COVID tests. And then pretty much Mike Norvell came out and was like, that's not true. He addressed it. Immediately. He's like, this is not true. And then even the athletes that usually would take the side of one of the guys that's in their class, something to the point of, hey, we got your back. You're my teammate. He's a brand new coach that we've never played a game under yet, and we're recruited by another guy who you can't spell Willie without one W and two L's. Now, instead, he went out there and nobody had his back. Everybody was like, nah, man, we don't agree. And 2 days later, he's now apologizing for all that because he wants to come back to the team. So people are going to try this, but I'm not 100% that Jacob Copeland and Kadarius Toney are going to sit there knowing, too, for a couple reasons. Remember, Florida lost a handful. They lost a plethora of wide receivers this year that went either pro or were undrafted but still have a shot, with guys like Van Jefferson, who's doing well right now with the Rams, who will be featured in NFL Hard Knocks this year. Looking at a guy like what we saw with Hammond, he's gone. You got guys out there. There is a list of about 4 or 5 receivers that they had last year that are no longer there. And he has a chance to do something special. Both of them do. So I don't know. I'm not going to buy into it until we get closer to the season. But they're going to make a decision here because people are starting to show up. Within the next 3 or 4 days, we're going to see a lot of this change.
Well, either they'll make the decision or Dan Mullen will make the decision, because at some point he's got to be able to move on and not either you're with us or you're not. Simply that. I'm not going to say against us, because that's not necessarily the case. But going back to that Florida State thing, I find it funny because remember we talked about this, and when Willie Taggart was here, they had a lot of problems off the field. They had a lot of things going on. They were the worst penalized team. I've said this before on Talk Football with Coach K. And something wasn't right, because when Norvell came out about the social justice thing and said, I've addressed it with my team, I talked to him, Big Marv came out, Marvin Wilson, and said, nah, you haven't, and all the team supported him. Yeah. It was like, he's never said anything to us. This came out, and you had a couple guys, Tamari and Terry, you had DJ Matthews come out, and they, Tamari and Terry retweeted the same thing, the message that was sent by Warren, and basically put exclamation points in that. So obviously people are like, okay, there's these 3 guys here that are saying this happened. And to me, that's weird, because if it's happening, these guys know, the team knows what's going on. These guys are all going through it.
They're all going through the same thing, yeah.
There's something was up there. And remember, the reason I bring up Taggart is because Taggart was very lax. That was a big problem that people had. There, you saw it on the field, guys taking plays off. Like I said, the most penalized team. There was something weird. When Norvell came in here, Norvell kind of rules, not with an iron fist, but he's more disciplined, obviously, than the majority of the coaches. Why he's had the success that he's had, because he understands what he was up against. He said that in his very first press interview. And so I said, well, maybe there's something to this. Maybe because I've read on the message boards, and I know how dangerous that can be, that a lot of these guys were upset with some of the rules that were going on. They didn't like it. I didn't know if that had anything to do with it. I still don't know if that has anything to do with it. But what I'm saying is, for guys like Tamari and Terry, who's a leader on this team, who is going to be an NFL wide receiver, why have we not heard anything from him? Because this is what I said is so scary. I said this today. It is so easy for guys to go on social media, and that post right there that Warren posted could have gotten Norvell fired if he was at another university. If this university was said, oh, crap, we don't want this kind of PR, we got to make a move. We can't allow this to happen, not with COVID going on and everything going on. We just can't allow that to happen. What if he would have lost his job and then Warren was like, well, no, I overreacted. That's not what's going on. That's what I'm saying can happen. It didn't happen here. These guys have so much power. I want to hear an apology from Terry. If I was Terry, I would go apologize. He didn't have to apologize to me, but apologize to Coach Norvell. Apologize to your teammates there, because you're supporting it, along with DJ Matthews and those guys. Like, Warren Thompson's the one that posted it. You retweeted it. You added your own part to there. You supported it. And you're like, this is what's going on. But that's just, to me, so basically these guys, I don't know, following somebody blindly is so scary to me, and that's kind of what this is about. Some of these guys, obviously, there's probably some unrest. I don't like this. I really don't. This is the problem. I have no problem with students and athletes using social media for a platform, but for the right platform. Think about this, people. I'm not trying to hinder anybody, but what he just said was lies, and he admitted to it.
Yeah.
He admitted it was a lie.
And there needs to be accountability for lies, too.
And he apologized, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's good. He apologized."
It is the same thing with the movie with Brian Banks, where the teacher ends up pretty much saying that she was assaulted, and he went to jail for 3 years. And they found out through a bar she made $1 million something on a lawsuit with the school, and overheard a conversation about 2.5 years later with her sitting with one of her friends at a bar talking and saying like how I conned this guy. He never did anything, and he ended up going there. And at the end of the day, she'll probably have to pay back the money, other things, but there's no crime or punishment. She deserves to go to jail for that just as much as anybody deserves to go to jail based on that. You can't be throwing that around. You ruined some guy's life. I mean, ruined. He was a pro football player and got another shot, but he never would have – the career path changed everything. And the same with this. You can't – in a time we're in right now, you can't do that to people. And even with Drew Brees could have reworded his words. He understands it. We know that now. But that's why you've never seen me. I don't get emotional really that bad, but I got pissed that day on air when they came out and people were talking about how he should be out of the league and other things for saying pretty much that he believes in standing instead of taking a knee. Now, the timing of it wasn't the time where everybody wanted to hear it on the news, but Drew Brees is from Barack Obama. President Barack Obama won the Humanitarian of the Year. This guy has done more for not only the city of New Orleans, but really as an individual athlete, he's done more than any other player almost out there. It's people like Warwick Dunn and what he does for single mothers. There's a lot of guys out there. Drew Brees, one of the most incredible humans you'll ever get a chance. And for that, sometimes one thing said should not ruin the rest or be jeopardizing the rest of someone's career. Mike Norvell, the way that a lot of these comments have come out, could have been already pushed out the door by half the things that aren't even being true. One thing we know about Florida State right now, and you brought up Willie Taggart was a little lax. Well, where do you send somebody when you're lax? Boca, right? Go down to Boca. There you go. But the one thing we know about Mike Norvell is he's a good coach. He's won a lot of games. I have probably seen more of them in Memphis. But he's also the kind of guy that's trying to build a program where there's not a lot of leadership. Here's a little ditty for you. Florida State fans, as we get set for the season, we're pretty excited to have it right here, News Radio. We'll have the Florida State show coming up on Wednesday with Terrence A. Gross. I'm looking forward to the season myself. There's a lot of intrigue with Florida State this year, and their schedule looks pretty solid, even with the non-conference games that they can win 7 this year. They don't have to play Florida, so I can see a 7-3 type, right? They're playing a 10-game or 11. I think it's 11. 11. So I can see 8-3. Now, Florida State, though, needs leadership. You talked about Tamarian Terry and the guys. One of the big reasons why they didn't win a lot of games, you can't put all the blame on a coach. The coach is the ultimate leader. But you have a team right now that last year had more 4- and 5-star recruits when they came into the program than 7 of the teams they lost. 7 of the teams combined they lost to over those years. Think about that. Like Virginia's and these teams like Boston College that were beating them up, Boston College might get 1 or 2 stars. People aren't going to the bars on Saturday at Chestnut Hill. They're used to them getting roasted. Overall, they like to go and watch the Patriots win another Super Bowl before Tom abandoned us. It's just a different world, but when you have that much talent and you're losing games to Boston College and Virginia, that's not acceptable. And we've been seeing it. So there's going to be a change of culture, and not everybody's going to like it. We're coming back for more Sports Drive. We'll talk more on the SEC new schedule when we return with Brent Barrett of Lindy Sports right here on the Sports Drive.
Want to be a fly on the wall at Nat Geo's headquarters? Well, with the Overheard podcast, you can. From smuggled dinosaur bones to man-made glaciers, each episode takes a dive into the curious conversations that occur behind the scenes at National Geographic. Overheard is presented by Geico. Millions of ESPN sports fans count on Geico for reliable car insurance and low, low rates. Visit geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Pensacola's own NFL Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith has some tips for us during this time.
This fight is up to all of us to try to help bend that curve. It's going to take teamwork. It's going to take us to stay committed, stay focused, and stay dedicated to the mission at hand, and that is to keep everyone safe. So be encouraging. Find some support. Find someone to talk to every day to encourage them to keep on continuing in this fight. And we will beat this pandemic.
For your ridiculous facts, I'm JP. The referee tossed a jump ball after every basket in basketball until 1937. That may be the reason the average points per game per team was 35, and now it's 112. And PETA, you may want to cover your ears on this one. It takes 3,000 cows to supply the NFL with enough leather for a year's supply of footballs. That's a lot of steak. That's your ridiculous facts. I'm JP.
I'm Little Teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip, me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
There has never been a more important time than now to work for a trucking company you can count on. Schneider was founded over 85 years ago during the Great Depression. We've thrived through the good times and the bad, providing truck drivers consistent work and paychecks. Today is no different. Schneider remains loaded and moving while adding new customers because of the outstanding service our drivers provide. Schneider is a company that drivers can always count on. Apply today at schneiderjobs.com.
Hey, what's up? Chad here from the Sports Drive. Well, we're into August, that first time that we start to feel the flow for football season.
Football.
Like getting ready to run out of the tunnel to a song like Enter Sandman. Might be a little different this year. Probably no smoke, social distance away from the people, as you might get cheered on by virtual fans.
You can do it!
But overall, we're excited, and we'll keep you posted with the latest updates from high school, college, and the NFL. Join myself, Chad Brillante, and JP right here on the Sports Drive, 5 to 7 on ESPN Pensacola.
We do sports, and that's all we do. We're your hometown sports station, ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
And welcome back, Sports Drive, 5:28 on this Monday afternoon. A lot to talk about as the schedules released for the SEC. Later tonight, they'll release the complete schedules at 6 o'clock on the SEC network. But earlier today, they went out and released the overall schedules right there for Week 1. And, some of the matchups, when you're in the SEC, you expect to have decent matchups across the board, and you're getting some. You're getting Florida at Ole Miss, Mississippi State at LSU, Tennessee at South Carolina, Vanderbilt will be playing at Texas A&M, Kentucky at Auburn, Georgia at Arkansas, and Alabama at Missouri. Joining us now to talk some college football in the South, as he does each and every Monday. You can catch him on First Coast News, 1010 XL Radio, College Sports Notebook, and more, covering the Florida Gators and the SEC 24/7. Brent Baird. Brent, it's always great to talk to you.
Thank you, Chad. Same to you. And yes, we are. We are off and running on the schedules. No, shall we say, headliners necessarily. And I think there's probably a reason for that. Basically giving some of the upper echelon of the league certainly not an exhibition game, but at least a game they could get under their belt before probably in week 2 and 3 that things stiffen up a little bit. But look, right now, Chad, it's ball, and that's all that matters.
Well, Brent, before we get into too many conversations here, I do want to say if we can give it up, it's sort of like a birthday for him. But JP is now an official Gator fan because his Oregon Ducks abandoned him. So he has jumped on the wagon here, all right?
Yeah, but they'll take all bandwagon fans they can get.
Well, Brent, looking right now at the petition by the Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields about requesting immediate reinstatement for the 2020 football season after the Big Ten canceled, including Ohio State. And then you saw for the first time ever a bunch of coaches come out and immediately say, this is not what we agreed on. Usually they can be angry, but you don't see that much backlash right away. What do you think right now, Brent, after getting almost 150,000 signatures and rising? Do you think this has any weight? Will you see Ohio State and teams like Michigan get to play in 2020?
No, I wish it would. I wish they'd get $1 billion, but you're dealing with an inept and arrogant commissioner in his first year, and you're dealing with entitled elitist presidents in that league that they really made up their mind for this probably in April or May. They had no real desire to play football this year, frankly, and that is a shame for what it's done to their fans, coaches, players. I'm glad to see it. I hope it continues as far as getting the as much pressure as they can on the league. Chad, I don't know if you saw this, but it's gone through a couple times today where there was even some talk from a couple of sources that there wasn't even a vote. So, it really shows you how dysfunctional the Big Ten is right now. And listen, if the three remaining Power 5 conferences can have any kind of a schedule run here and halfway even complete a season, that would hurt the Big Ten and the Pac-12, frankly, for years. So, and again, they would the power folks in the Big Ten would have to actually admit they made a mistake. They're not going to do that. And again, Chad, the reason they did this was not just COVID. They really were more afraid of a quasi-labor union with the players and the liability issues, I think, as they were COVID.
Brent, when we look at this, obviously, everybody's starting to practice now. There's a lot of stuff coming out. We're hearing the rumors, and I know today, of course, Jacob Copeland and Kadarius Toney had sat out. Things like, where that's going to go, which we don't have a crystal ball. We have no idea. But when you look over here at Georgia, now this is obviously for Florida, this is interesting news, and I'm just going to get your take on what you've heard on it. Obviously, Jamie Newman, was rumored that came out. I believe Hudson Mason made the comment that he's been obviously switching up reps with other guys. He's been wearing a protective boot there. JT Daniels, we know, just got cleared today from his ACL tear. Dwan Mathis got cleared in May from brain surgery. That's quite the quarterback room you got going on there. But, Jamie Newman wearing a boot, any concern here to any of these quarterbacks? When the other question, I guess I'll go ahead and throw in there since we're going to ask it, is this truly, is this Jamie Newman's job to lose, or is there truly a quarterback battle in Georgia right now?
Well, I think dovetailing a few things that you mentioned. One would be the wide receivers at Florida, Kadarius Toney, Trevon Grimes, and Jacob Copeland. They've also tweeted out that this doesn't mean that they won't be on the team. But I think defensive end Zachary Carter, they had tweeted out that he might be delayed before he comes in. But as far as Georgia, I think the good thing that helps Georgia right now, and Todd Monken as the offensive coordinator, would be that they've got time. Even with Newman in the boot, he'll be fine by the time they end up having to play at the end of September. It actually helps him probably that the SEC is delayed at this point too. So I think that will probably not be as big of a deal as it is. And he's got a midfoot sprain, so that will he'll be out for a little bit. Blaylock, you remember the wide receiver that got hurt in the SEC championship game, is still not been cleared at this point. So that I think that's a difficult. Monty Rice is practicing with a bit of a foot injury, and then Leon Davis has got a small torn meniscus. But look, that you've got some of that going on this time of year. These kids really haven't been hitting anybody necessarily, but at the same time, they've had a lot of time to work out, and they're going to have some bumps and bruises from it.
Speaking with Brent Baird of College Sports Notebook, you can follow him on Twitter at Brent Baird, Beaird. Now, Brent, we know Auburn is a team that has high hopes with Bo Nix. They played in a lot of competitive games last year. If a couple plays go their way in the game against Oregon, and also the matchup, what we saw, or in the game that did go against Oregon, but the matchup where it went in the right way, it could have changed the LSU game as well. They were the closest one of all games against LSU for a while. When you look right now at Auburn, Chad Morris has been brought in. The offense hasn't been as good over the last couple seasons. Do you see Bo Nix being able to take his game to that next level where we've seen the talent and what he's capable of doing?
Maybe, but I'm not sure the offensive line can protect him. That's the real issue here, is the offensive line. And they just really haven't recruited well in the offensive line. The Auburn beat writers will tell you that. And the other problem for Auburn's their secondary. They were really fortunate that they did not play North Carolina, and because Sam Howell may have really picked on them during that time also. So Auburn is who Auburn is. That they have averaged 4 to 5 losses every year over the last 5 and 6 years. I don't think that's going to change. I think Bo Nix will be better, and I think Bo Nix is a really good quarterback. He could be really good, but by the time he is a junior, the question with Chad Morris is, are they actually going to allow Chad Morris to be able to run that offense? My question is, in answer, I don't think so. Will that last a play? Will it last a quarter? Will it last a game before Gus takes it back over again? I think that's kind of what you're looking at with them.
Brent, looking right now, they've decided to keep teams in the Big Ten and the Pac-12 in the AP's first top 25 poll. Now, I think it would be hilarious if they just put like Ohio State 1 and Oregon 2 just for brownie points. Like, hey,
yeah,
all right. So they could always have like that newspaper be like, guys, how did your season go? Well, we finished right there, same spot where we were in. But overall, when it comes down to the teams in the top 25, how can we really base it this year? Are they going to be looking at just what you do within your conference and then trying to figure this all out together? Because obviously we're all trying to figure this out. But what did you think when the news came out that the AP was going to keep teams that aren't even going to play this year in the top 25 for the first week?
I mean, that's just bizarre. But I think that's just the way that they are, and that's what they do. So that they're not getting away from that precedent. Look, amazingly, the coaches poll may be a little more accurate than anything else in this situation. So, I mean, this is nothing but we're going to improvise and do the best we can with whether it's the AP poll, whether it's bowl games, whether it's the Heisman, whether it's the season. That's kind of where we are.
And Florida State, Warren Thompson, who caused quite the firestorm, to say the least, on Thursday with his comments about how the testing procedures were just horrible and that he was afraid other players were, and nobody came to his aid, really. Most of them were like, nah, we got your back on this one, Coach. He came out and apologized. Is it a little bit too late for Warren? His stats, he only had about a couple big plays. This wasn't like a guy like Terry coming out and making that comment. But based on what we've seen at Florida State, personally, Mike Norvell knew walking into that, because you and I have covered Mike Norvell for a while, and I know that this is a guy that he wasn't going in there to make friends. He seems like a decent man, but he needs to light a fire because they've needed that for years. What have you seen? Because the media will make it where every week it seems like the Florida State Seminoles are under scrutiny. He got some terrible press on national shows that the way he was treating people, and it really, frankly, was undeserved. And now you have a guy out today saying he pretty much fabricated it. What have you thought of what we've seen early on from Mike Norvell?
Well, I think he's doing the best that he can do. Now, look, should he be more transparent? Yes. But I think the other issue you've got there is I think he's got a handful of malcontents that probably at the end of this year he's going to show the door and make sure that they're quietly going somewhere else. Yes, Warren Thompson has apologized, and they're supposedly moving forward at this point. So I still think that he's going to do a good job there. I would still hired Stoops at Kentucky, but they hired Norvell. I can't complain about that. Listen, the problem they've got now is injuries. Trevor Purdy at quarterback. Now, again, he may not have played it down, but he suffered an ankle injury or an injury in the scrimmage and will miss several weeks. And even worse than that is their tight end, Jordan Wilson, who comes over from UCLA, suffered a season-ending injury to his lower leg. So that's a real problem for them. Now, they really do like Josh Kendo, who's a defensive end. They've been raving about him, and they're moving some people around. Tamarian Terry is back. The offensive line is supposed to be much better. We'll have to see that to believe it. But I still think that Norvell can get the job done, and before it's over, that if they'll be patient with him, that they'll be a much better football team by the end of this year, and certainly by next year.
Brent, great stuff as always. It was actually nice to talk getting ready for the season with you this year. You know,
yes, absolutely, and can't wait for about 20 minutes from now when we know the schedules.
Yes, and when Arkansas and Missouri fans turn the dial again.
Go Gators!
Yeah,
Really?
Hey, Brent, appreciate it as always.
Take care, guys. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, Arkansas fans are like, we're not watching. We're done.
Go Gators!
Yeah.
Gators, baby.
You get 5 of those a show. Go to Brent.
Gosh, I think I've already used 5.
You've already used the whole week. You're up to Friday. You've
Well,
got 2
might as well
left.
get it next week, just in
You've got
case.
2 left for Friday.
YOLO. Go Gators.
I'm Troy Rafferty, and many of you know about my love for sports and my longtime support for our local high school athletes. One thing these fine young people have taught me over the years is this: whether it's on the ball field, in the classroom, or in a court of law, always work your hardest and achieve the best results possible. And that is the commitment we make to our clients and our community.
Levin Papantonio in Pensacola since 1955.
At Indian Motorcycle, we've always believed there's a right way to do something. It takes craft, dedication, and working till it's your best. Visit Adventure Motorsports of Northwest Florida and save up to $2,750 on a 2019 Indian Chief Vintage with either no payment until 2021 or 2.99% financing for 60 months. Indian Motorcycles, available now at Adventure Motorsports of Northwest Florida in Pensacola. Always wear your helmet. Never drink and ride.
Locally owned, ADX Communications is currently accepting applications for a lifestyle talk show host on News Radio 92.3 AM 1620. The position is part-time, Monday through Friday, and requires knowledge of our Escambia and Santa Rosa listening area and lifestyles. Schedule and perform on-air interviews with guests involved in local businesses, civic activities, nonprofits, arts, and entertainment. Send resumes to HR at newsradio1620.com. ADX is an equal opportunity employer.
Making Moves is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs.
After falling to the Los Angeles Lakers in the 1982 NBA Finals, the 76ers needed to find the right player to build the ultimate winning team. In September of '82, they acquired restricted free agent Moses Malone. They went on to rack up a 65-17 regular season record and followed that up with a 12-1 postseason record. Malone won the regular season and NBA Finals MVP award.
Build your winning team today. Go to linkedin.com/sports.
Adding a leader you need right when you need them. That's how sports teams get ahead and how your business can too. LinkedIn will match the right talent with your open roles fast. Post a job and you'll get great candidates with the right mix of skills, interest, and experience. So every hire you make is a win for your business. Go to linkedin.com/sports and get $50 off your first job post. That's linkedin.com/sports. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm Troy Rafferty, and many of you know about my love for sports and my longtime support for our local high school athletes. One thing these fine young people have taught me over the years is this: whether it's on the ball field, in the classroom, or in a court of law, always work your hardest and achieve the best results possible. And that is the commitment we make to our clients and our community.
Levin Papantonio in Pensacola since 1955.
This is Davis Allen from Sports Call with Davis and Justin. And you're listening to the Sports Drive with Chad Brillante on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place.
And welcome back, Sports Drive. ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. simulcast each and every day here on Blab TV. New lineup today of shows. I was listening into Keyshawn and Jay, Zub, and those guys. And then you have Dan Lebitard still out there having some fun.
Greeny was good.
Well, Greeny's always good. And then you guys on Talk Football. And then Max Kellerman.
Yeah, Max.
And then Paul Feinbaum, who, look, I think most Feinbaum fan feels the same way. Well, we need football back. Once football gets going, now we have heated discussions with people like Daryl in Georgia and people talking about, Phyllis and these people about their teams.
Other than that,
having them break down Corona over the last 3 months has been,
without football is nothing but Fox News versus CNN. That's what it comes down to.
It was not easy to listen to. But now it's all back. So, getting it ready to go for this season. Based on what we've seen in the NFL, the news today that the Kansas City Chiefs right there, Patrick Mahomes, good ticket to get. They're going to play at about 25%. They're going to play, it looks like.
25%. They're going to ease into their season?
Ease into their season. Yeah, that's what they're going to play.
25%.
Their stadium. They're going to be playing at a capacity of around 20,000, it looks like, which it's good to see. I mean, I think that's the right way to do it, by being able to get, well, I'd be okay with no fans, but if you're going to have fans, make sure that they're spaced out, and you can do that at about 1/4 capacity.
This is not NFL, but I just read this. Minnesota's quarterback Tanner Morgan, which I would have you. That's the only way you would. If I just said Tanner Morgan, you'd be like, "Who the heck is that?" That sounds like my next door neighbor or whatever.
Golden helmet right there. He was rowing the boat for a while.
He's I think he's about to find out how brutal SEC fans are. He came out and said, "I commend the Big Ten for being the conference that actually put player health and safety first, like they said all along." Said he praises P.J. Fleck, Kevin Warren, and Mark Coyle, and school president Joan Gable. And goes on, obviously, to continue to bash, but Tanner, young man, just pump the brakes, because or delete your account, whatever, because it's about to be hell.
I don't know. I honestly, if he's ever trying to get a job in maybe XFL as a backup quarterback, I think he might. I can see him being like the next Matt McGloin. Now, if you're going to go out there,
really good comparison.
Thank you. That's pretty fair out there. We'll throw him out there. It's not a comparison I want to hear if you're trying to be in stardom, but I think that's fair.
The guy that made it.
Yeah, you hear his name, but you have to explain that
he
guy
made
went
but
to.
He didn't make it.
Yeah.
Penn
State's Matt McGloin. You have to explain these things. So when you get out there and you're Tanner Morgan, any coach though that hears that, like the people that pay you one day that want to have you as a player, that says that, you're not winning a lot of brownie points. Like if you said, "Hey, I just watched my grandmother, my grandfather, my dad, my mom, they all just passed from it, and I don't want to be around the football field," people be like, "Okay, man, we'll give you." I mean, that's okay. We get that. We get if a player doesn't want to be around the football field for safety protocol. But to come out and just say, "Yeah, we back you guys. All my teammates that wanted to play this year, that are petitioned to play, screw y'all. We're not playing. Woo!" And be happy about it. You poured your heart out. Finally, PJ Fleck's team is emotionally in the right. You got to host game day for the first time. You got rocked, but you got to host.
Laid an egg.
I'm just saying, you got to row the boat for a little while and be something. You were a story last year. You made Minnesota relevant in football again, and to just pretty much be like,
well, what is? I mean, here's my thing. What is the problem for both sides? What is the problem for, him to say, "Hey, look, commend the Big Ten. I support their decision. It is what it is. We're going to move on. Hopefully, play in the spring. Not take a shot at the SEC."
Yeah.
They put player safety first. I guarantee you right now, Tanner Morgan has no idea why they even canceled the season. Outside of, the medical officials said that they should. That's following something blindly, which, by the way, that's why Ohio State parents, Michigan parents, Penn State parents, Iowa parents, all these parents in the Big Ten hand-delivered letters to Chicago, to Big Ten headquarters, and demanded why. And they say, the medical officials. Okay, what did they say? Because why are they saying yes and you're saying no? Tell me what the difference is here.
Not only that, you have teams around them, not right down the street, but a team like Kansas State at Bill Schneider Family Stadium. It's a family atmosphere, so it comes together. If one person gets they all come together and support them. No, if somebody does get it, you need to get out of there. But Kansas State 25% today, so they're going to be at about 20,000. So while they're announcing that they can't play the season, the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC is like, yeah, we're going to cap out at about Texas Longhorns. Don't mess with them, right? Hook them.
They're going 120%, actually.
they're actually, yeah, we're bringing an extra stand. It's like grandstands, like at a Cubs game in the back with beer.
Yes.
No, they're actually saying 50%. Yeah. So they're wanting, out in Austin to be pardoned up there in that burnt orange with about 50,000 people. So when they're saying we can't get our team into the stadium and the team we're playing, they're talking about hiring cotton candy and ushers. That's what's happening around them. And I'm not saying either we don't until they play the game in football, because we haven't. We have to base everything that we've seen with COVID based on the first thing we see, meaning that we got to see Korean baseball before we saw Major League Baseball, so we were able to at least see that the Japanese leagues, Chinese Taipei, what we saw in Korea, that gave us a little bit of knowledge to say, okay, they're going to do it like this. Same thing when you saw Aussie, when you saw soccer in Australia. And then you saw the games over in Germany in Bundesliga soccer, in Serie A, and all the English Premier. That gave MLS, Serie A, it gave MLS a little bit more love. Same thing with what we're seeing in NBA. Now we knew. Going into the NBA, we all knew there was a bubble, but all we knew was Rajon Rondo talking about looking like a Motel 6 in a 5-star place with giraffes in your backyard. We didn't know all the questions.
Ow, my hand hurts.
We knew Sweet Lou was enjoying some chicken wings for lunch. Expensive lunch.
Rest and thighs.
That's right. Yeah, head out to Atlanta for lunch. That's what I do. Get on a plane. Looking at NFL football or in college football, we don't have those answers. Like, we don't have anything to judge it by yet, although we believe if they follow the protocol like they're doing. Because what they're doing, the semantics of practice, what they're doing is exactly what they'll do in the game, meaning show up on a field, line up 11 on the other side. And I heard somebody is like, yeah, but it's tackling drills. I was just like, okay, you know what? This is the most nitpicky comment. I'm not answering that. Like, seriously, like, by somebody tackling a guy is not going to make the difference. They're going to be right in their face. Blue 42, whether you're tackling the guy or
campus. Yeah, it's
like, come on, people.
In Auburn, a couple of Auburn players tweeted that the students there are not wearing masks, and that's, once again, it gets twisted like, see, it's doomed, it's doomed, it's doomed. I'd use it as more of, look, guys, these guys are saying this because they want to play football. If you want to play football, let's take this serious. But the biggest thing in all this, it's not the players. I think the players are going to be okay. It's going to be tough. They're going to have to find a way to quarantine them in their own kind of way. But it's the students on campus, the other students, the frat boys and the sorority girls, and have the parties and things like this.
Well,
how is that going to work? That's the toughest thing, because we've seen right now this can work without students. But now these students are going back on campus. That's the only telling part of this. The people that were like they can't play football because they're going to touch each other, they're going to get it off campus, not on. It's what you do off. If you go to those parties, you're going to test positive. But if you're going to do that, then don't show up. If you're going to you want to go to these parties, you want the college experience, then just don't show up.
I think a lot of the fraternities and sororities know that they have a lot worse things they can get from going to those parties.
Yeah, that is
but
very true.
You know what? In this case,
100%.
Yeah, just don't have COVID parties, all right? Tuscaloosa. We'll come back for more. No XFL. Well, there will be XFL, no Canadian football. The XFL might be able to reap the benefits of getting a couple of those. No.
Come on,
I was about to root for the Grey Cup, and now nothing.
There goes your boot.
Nothing. No more Jonah Grays. Daniel Cormier looked like he's ready to retire, and he did. We're coming back for more.
My son Aiden has asthma. Secondhand smoke has triggered his asthma so badly, he ended up in the emergency room and spent multiple nights in intensive care. Now he's on a whole bunch of medications. My tip to you is, don't be shy about telling people not to smoke around your kids.
Half of U.S. kids are exposed to secondhand smoke. If you or someone you know wants help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
There are people who say things aren't made here anymore. Those people should make a trip to Michigan, or Kentucky, or Illinois, where you'll find our workers, and dealers, and engineers, and technicians building at the Ford Motor Company, the same way we have for over a century, in the same place, for the same reason. Built for America.
Hitting the road this summer? Do what truck drivers do. Bring plenty of 5-Hour Energy. You'll get the alert, energized feeling you need to get where you're going and do everything you want to do when you get there. It's small, light, and portable, like it was made for road trips. Just crack it open, knock it back, and keep both hands on the wheel. Because when it comes to road trips, safety comes first. 5 Hour Energy. Energy on the go. For more information, visit 5hourenergy.com.
Hi, I'm Brooke Burke. Do you ever consider just how important your feet are? They're quite literally the foundation of your body. And if you don't take care of them, you're asking for problems. That's why I wear Skechers' new Arch Fit shoes. Skechers teamed up with doctors to make a shoe that provides complete all-day foot support. They use 20 years of data to design a podiatrist-certified insole that distributes pressure across the arch, providing incredible stability and extreme comfort. Get Skechers' new Arch Fit at a Skechers store near you, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish shoes are sold.
This is Field Yates, and on this week's Fantasy Focus Football Podcast, Matthew Berry, Stefania Bell, and I preview both the AFC East and the NFC East in our Double Trouble segment.
He's definitely a riskier tight end. If you choose to draft him for the upside, I highly recommend insurance. A second player who you can immediately plug in if you feel like Ingram's not quite up to the level of where you had to draft him.
Download it wherever you find your podcasts.
The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
And welcome back. 5:57 on this Monday. The SEC schedules will be released in full coming up here in about 3 minutes. Week 1 schedules already released, and still no good news for Missouri and Arkansas.
Well, they get Alabama out of the way quick.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Missouri will start the season against Alabama, and you'd think, okay, we get them at home, we get the crowd all pumped up, and they're probably only going to get about
somebody that's tough.
10,000 max.
Kentucky at Auburn. Don't be surprised if Kentucky wins that football game. This Kentucky team's really good offensively. They've got all their offensive line back. They're going to be good. The other one that's going to be tough that I will throw out here is that you were talking about like not, knowing about these teams, things like that. Mississippi State at LSU. You get Mike Leach week 1. Good luck. I just think that's going to be so tough. I mean, LSU should win the football game. They're way more talented, but still going against a Mike Leach team week 1. Trying to get some guys going there. I know one of their cornerbacks or their secondary just opted out to get ready for the draft, a senior, a starter. That's a sketchy game to me, but Kentucky-Auburn, I'm saying that. I know that the other side of my family is going to be ticked off, but just saying.
Well, your Gators got Ole Miss, so there you go. And
better not lose that one. Not my first game as a Gator.
How much do you think, I know we only got a couple seconds here, but Missouri at Alabama, if they're allowed, let's say, 15,000 in the stadium, how many of those are bought by Alabama scalpers?
100%.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Go Gators. Sorry.
This is ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Pensacola's home for hometown sports. Your home to talk football with Coach K. Sports Drive with Chad Brillante and Sports Call with Davis Allen. If you'd like to partner with ESPN Pensacola or become a sponsor, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Coming up on the Sports Drive, we'll get to more on the SEC schedule. We'll talk NBA playoffs already. The first game out of the gate, overtime. But it didn't end in a nice song for the Jazz.
Emmitt Smith has just become the NFL's all-time leading rusher. Across the middle, it is caught for the first. It's Baldwin shaking free and sprinting down the sideline for the touchdown. His third of the day. Doug Baldwin. Derrick Brooks, who ran back 3 interceptions for touchdowns in the regular season, does it to cement the Super Bowl. Boxing's elite, the new WBA heavyweight champion of the world,
screens that Gatlin's taken it. Goodness me, it was a blue American vest. 992 for Gatlin. 992 by the American champion to take gold.
Another Watson is wearing a green jacket at Augusta. And this time, his name is Bubba.
Scores on a 34-yard touchdown run by the Doak Walker Award winner, Trent Richardson, who broke a lot of Emmett Smith's records back in Pensacola, Florida.
And welcome back to the Sports Drive right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Simulcast each every day on Blab TV. Chad Brillante with you here. Another Jeff joining us, but this one, the true Jeffrey D. Gator. I mean, you got one Gator that has now been part of the group about as long as a newborn baby Gator at Gatorland in Kissimmee, Florida. And then you have a true Florida Gator alumni who joins us now to talk Florida football. Actually got a game scheduled at Ole Miss. Now, Jeffrey D. joins us. It's always great to have you in studio. I know this used to be a norm. We used to be able to do this, have a whole party. Literally, it would almost be like one of these, Vegas vacations right there where everybody was hanging out together, just chilling. Nobody had any problem with 10 people in a room. The more the merrier, right? But now we have protocol for the best reasons. We got this plexiglass between us, and since the show's on TV, people can see it. It keeps also JP and I from once in a while fisticuffing. But in this case right now, the Gators are about to have their schedule released in about a minute from now, and they're taking on Ole Miss to start the season. Pretty excited to see an actual schedule in place, Jeff, that we're going to have some football.
Yeah, the first week of the season, it didn't look like any of the top 4 or 5 teams in the conference had much of a challenge other than maybe Auburn, with Kentucky coming to town. But, I think that Ole Miss that early in the season probably is not going to be a challenge to the Gators or a threat to beat the Gators. They'll be good eventually under Kiffin, but the first game of his regime, I would think that Ole Miss and Mississippi State would struggle at LSU too. Because it's the first game of those 2 head coaching tenures, and then poor old Arkansas, who has another first-year head coach, having to play Alabama in that first game.
Well, looking at it too, we talked about this, and this is sort of an answer like, would you rather in their primes? They're about the Bucs now. I guess it's been moved to November, but the legendary Roy Jones Jr. from Pensacola. If one of us was asked the question, would you rather box against Roy Jones Jr. or Mike Tyson? Sort of the true answer is like, well, do I want to die a slower death, and which way? It's not really, the answer is not going to win either way. But JP and I were talking about, if I would rather play a team like Alabama week 1 at home than getting them week 7 or 8. At that point, knowing that when you've looked at rosters, looked at schedules, Alabama is more than likely going to be on a path to going to a chance at a college football playoff this year, whatever that playoff model looks like. And Missouri is more than likely, with their first-year head coach, going to be in a trying to fight for 500 mode. I would rather get them right out of the gate where you say, okay, you know what? Everybody's trying to figure it out right now with COVID. They might not have trained as well. They're still right now currently in a quarterback battle, even though we expect Mac Jones to be the starter. But you've got Bryce Young, the highly touted 5-star recruit from the West Coast. Once again, they're going to lose this game either way. I'm making that very clear. But do you feel that's
normally I would say that if you're going to get a really good football team, get them early. Yeah, Alabama's a pretty experienced football team.
They got a good coach that gets them up for games,
they've
too.
Got a good coach. They'll be in condition and ready to go. They've got 2 of those 4 great wide receivers back. Mm-hmm. They've got a stable full of tailbacks, an experienced quarterback now, an experienced offensive line. They're number 1 or 2 or 3 in the nation for a reason, and that's just a really good football team. And I don't know. They'll have to sleepwalk through that game for Missouri to have any a chance of staying in it for more than a quarter.
What do you think the chances? And it's sort of a pipe dream at this point, but what do you see as the chances? You're part of our group, our core group of co-hosts that once in a while will tweet. Sometimes they're just jokes. Once in a while, one of us will be up late. It's usually myself or you, and we'll tweet them at like midnight. I get it. I laugh. Everybody else is like, I've got kids. I'm asleep. Now, we're sitting here, Jeff, talking about teams like Ohio State, Michigan, and the possibility of the Big Ten allowing them to go somewhere and play this year. In a short period of time to make this happen, and Justin Fields petitioning with over 100,000 signatures to get them to play, how much water does this hold? Will those teams get a shot? Because in a perfect world, I think it's easy to say snap your fingers and be like, you know what, let them have a shot this year. But there's a lot of other things that go into this, and the Big Ten, if they don't have to, this is going to help them none. So I don't see this happening. I just don't see it happening.
Well,
I wish it did,
it
but
would, it'd really be odd if anybody had jumped in the portal and went to another school this late in the process. Say Fields wanted to go to, XYZ.
Just throw out Georgia. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, Georgia, he'd probably have a smoother transition there because he already knows.
Come back. He might have his locker room still there, yeah.
Yeah, but if he goes anywhere else, and first he's got to enter the transfer portal. And it's not an instantaneous decision by the NCAA. And then, practice has already started. Then he's got no timing with anybody, whatever school he goes to. It's not just plug and play. By maybe mid-season, he'd be effective, but it's just really awkward. I heard Coach K the other day say, you take a elite quarterback, plug him into a quarterback room, and it just disrupts everything. So I just don't think that's a viable option. Plus, the Big Ten says, hey, we're still playing in the spring, which I think it's ridiculous. I think that they just said that to kind of soothe the fans, temporarily. And, once January gets here, they're going, just kidding, guys, we're not going to play at all.
There are so many questions that to answer it appropriately, from an instinct compared to the numbers, because you want to respect the scientists or the doctors, which is even more confusing because you have Pac-12 doctors saying it's not safe to play and the ACC and SEC doctors saying it is. And then you start to go, okay, you know what, guys? Like, you're not giving us anything outside of us to make our own decisions, which I think most of us need to understand at this point how much we're seeing other sports succeed in this right now. Under the right protocol, because they're not in a bubble, it's going to be tougher. But ultimately, I think it's real clear. If you have teams like what Jim Harbaugh showed, and people have been bitterly disappointed in his actions. He's bitterly disappointed in some actions. But he's done a great job, I think, of explaining out things, of saying, hey, when we got there, we had 850 tests, 13 tests positive. By the first week of practice, we had 2 out of the 432 tests. By the last 8 weeks after that, we've had 0 positive with 393 tests. It shows that if you show the steps that you can get that done, as many did when we saw Clemson with 30, with LSU with 35 from going to that one bar in that one location, they started to say, okay, guys, do you want football or not? Because you got to look right now in all these seniors' eyes and everybody and say, if you continue on this path, if you continue to party and go to these keggers and do that, that's great. You'll enjoy and you'll have a memory one day of that party where you had $50 at Taco Bell scattered in your car in a Planet Hollywood parking garage. That maybe happened to someone. But if it comes down to, do you want to play football, you guys have to take it serious. You have to be serious about this. And I think a lot of them have shown that. A lot of these guys have stepped up and shown that. But it's ultimately going to be up to them when they go on a road trip. When Alabama goes to Missouri, or if a team, week 1, you have a team that Florida is going to Oxford and something happens where they go out the night before and it starts to even snowball where you have a roster of 80 to 100 people on the sidelines and all of a sudden 2 or 3 get it, it might shut down that game. And you're not only shutting down the game for you, you might be shutting down the game for Ole Miss. And at that point, it will snowball effect into no football or you guys are going to miss it. Because this isn't like baseball where you have 60 games. You've got now 10 games. So if you start where you can't play for 2 weeks and you've cut your team, you might cut your team out of a championship. You might cut your team out of a chance to finish the season. So ultimately, it's going to be up to these kids anyway. I do believe, though, if they're showing safety, that they can get through from starting with 13 to 0 over an 8-week span and they continue down that path. I personally would give them a chance to play. And it's not going to be up to me anyway. It's going to be up to the accountability of the team to get through that season.
Yeah, I think so. And it's almost inevitable that you're going to probably have an outbreak with multiple teams.
Maybe Rutgers.
The question is, can you manage it? There's 85 kids on scholarship. So, if you're without 10 players, you can play that game. You're probably going to be compromised and won't be as good, especially if there's some key players. But they're going to probably try to keep I've heard opinions that they're going to have like maybe the 1 and 3 quarterbacks in one quarterback room and the 2 and 4 in another, and then maybe divide up the running backs and the wide receivers so that those kids aren't around each other constantly. Because if one kid gets infected, then what you don't want is every wide receiver on your roster to have, end up with COVID, or every offensive lineman. Then you can't play. You can limp by if you've got just individuals at certain positions rather than a whole cluster of people. So I think you're going to really have to tightly control it, and so it's going to be an adventure. I've always thought that college football would be the most difficult to control because you've got all those kids on campus and you've got inevitably a lot of folks mixing with the team. And so you can't. It's not a bubble. The NBA bubbles worked great, but you can't take 130, 85 man roster football teams with another 15 walk-ons and 12 coaches and put them together and expect to do anything. So
yeah, you're talking about the average. You're talking about $50 million in split. I mean, we're talking about each one of them per school is making about $50 million in split revenue from when it comes to TV deals and other things going on. Last year, $2.7 billion is how much the top 25 was able to bring in revenue, and in profit, they made $1.5 billion. So when it comes down to, hey, you get sick and you miss that game with now Gary and Brad, that was going to be Alabama versus Auburn, you bet there's going to be a couple people out there being like, you cost us. You cost us more in ways that you don't even understand. So there's a lot of pressure from not just them, but when you're talking about millions of dollars per game for your school and for the people around it, the accountability levels from the people that are saying you're not going out tonight and the strict code enforcement of assistant coaches that are watching your every move, it's a little bit different because you still are, even though they're adults in many ways by the law, they're under the leadership of these coaches, where in the NBA, in places like the bubble right now with Boston and Philadelphia in the playoffs, it doesn't work that way. Like, these guys are adults. When they get done with this game, you don't have somebody like Brad Stevens going and telling a guy like Jaylen Brown what he needs to eat and where he needs to go if he wants to go fishing. I mean, they're adults. They do their own thing. College, with that much money on the line, you know that they're going to be all over them.
It's right, and even without money on the line, even if the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC are able to pull this off, Chad, and get through an entire season intact, their revenue is still going to be compromised because they won't have sold nearly as many tickets.
Do you see Florida going with fans this year? Have you got the word on that?
Florida will go with fans. They have not committed to how many yet. I think they were only right now we even know what the schedule is going to be. So,
there's always room at Seville, right? There will be room at Seville in sectional areas this year.
Florida has said. Florida came out today and said that they're going to sell tickets on an individual game basis, and they're going to prioritize it based on booster donations. And so the top boosters will get X number of tickets, and the next tier will get X, and the next tier will get X. Students will be set aside a certain amount. But you're probably looking at 25%, 30%. So you're probably going to look at 20,000 people scattered throughout the stands, which creates some noise and some atmosphere. It's a lot better than an empty stadium. So we'll see details of that as they come out. And I'm sure you've got the TV on ESPN behind me.
Yes.
And have you seen anything yet?
I have not seen anything. The NBA right now is focusing on that. They're not running the bottom line, but we will go ahead. Let's go to a break.
It's on us, yes.
When we come back, we'll get to more. We do have that network, and we have two other TVs that one used to have Walker, Texas Ranger during the 4-month hiatus when we had to come down here, and we need to get that back on sports. There's a lot going on. NHL hockey, Tampa Bay Lightning with the win today. We've got European soccer going on, and UEFA right there having a chance to Champions League. What a win today by Milan, getting it done 5-0. So we'll get to more on that when we return right here at Sports Drive on ESPN Pensacola and on Blab TV. This Thursday at 5:30, tune into the Sports Drive with me, Chad Brilliante, when we tee it up with PGA and head pro at Osceola Golf Course, Adrian Stills, for his inside scoop on local golf events and some entertaining stories around the links. Adrian has represented Pensacola at the highest levels of the PGA Tour and is proud to call Pensacola his home. And now he's giving you the inside scoop Thursday at 5:30, right here on the Sports Drive on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM 99.1 FM is accepting applications for employment. Periodically, we have openings in sales, business, news, promotions, engineering, production, and programming. We'll keep your application for consideration when such an opening occurs. We also provide internships for qualified students. Apply online at ESPNpensacola.com or at our studios at 7251 Plantation Road behind University Town Plaza. ADX Communications is an equal opportunity employer.
Pensacola's own NFL Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith has some tips for us during this time.
This fight is up to all of us to try to help bend that curve. It's going to take teamwork. It's going to take us to stay committed, stay focused, and stay dedicated to the mission at hand, and that is to keep everyone safe. So be encouraging. Find some support. Find someone to talk to every day to encourage them to keep on continuing in this fight. And we will beat this pandemic.
Bowling is a sport that will last you a lifetime, and at Cordova Lanes on Airport Boulevard, every night there is something exciting happening. Like on Tuesday and Thursday, it's penny a pin. Bowl 100, pay $1. Or how about starting your weekend off right by reserving a lane for just $25 at Moonlight Bowling. Enjoy a fresh-made pizza and the lowest pitcher prices in Pensacola. So what are you waiting for? It's time to roll your way into Cordova Lanes and experience fun like never before.
JP here. At ESPN Pensacola, we are hometown proud. Like the greatest pound-for-pound boxer of all time, Roy Jones Jr.
Three-time light heavyweight world champion and former heavyweight champion of the world, future Hall of Fame legend, Roy Jones Jr.
What up? This is your boy Roy Jones Jr. and you're listening to ESPN Pensacola.
We do sports, and that's all we do. We're your hometown sports station, ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Yeah, I'd rather be a lover than a fighter. Cause all my life I've been fighting. Never felt a feeling of comfort. All this time I've been hiding. And I never had someone to come on. Ooh, nah, I'm so used to shit.
Welcome back, Sports Drive, ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Simulcast each every day on Blab TV. Well, joining us now is Jeffrey D. as we're breaking down the SEC schedule. Full look as they're updating it each and every week. We're looking at Week 9 of the season, which is now down to crunch time. Florida at Vanderbilt, one of the games. Tennessee at Auburn. But no reason to start right into 9 and confuse the heck out of everybody. So right now we're going to look at each and every week and some of the key matchups. Week 1 for your Florida Gators, it'll be Florida at Ole Miss. So this is pretty cool to do because Jeffrey D. is a plethora of knowledge. He's an encyclopedia of Florida Gator knowledge, but I actually get to be the first one to break this to you, correct? Is this
you do, because I'm not, I could be looking at my phone. I probably will in a minute.
Exactly, I know. Yeah.
But I've got you.
There you go.
Looking at the
That's
the
a scary thought, yeah. Somebody out there is driving like, isn't he supposed to be the sports broadcaster that does this anyway? But yes, it is. But there's a lot of things happening. Looking right now at Week 2, we have a South Carolina at Florida matchup. So you've got Florida at Ole Miss, yes. And South Carolina at Florida, Week 2, which would be October 3rd. Then in week number 3, it'll be Florida at Texas A&M on October 10th. So you'll head out there to what used to be the biggest fans. I'm sure, I bet they get to change week in and week out. So you know some of these that might start at like 25%, If a team's going, if like A&M was sitting there at 5-0, let's say, and they've got Alabama, and things have been smooth, and that guy just comes out, that regent, like, well, wouldn't mind seeing it go to 50,000 this week. All right, sounds good to me right there. Looking at,
well, you know, if you're going to play a road game, as that extra game, Texas A&M is probably the one to do. Instead of 100,000 people, you've got 25.
True.
There's other places that if you were going to play a road game during COVID, you want LSU, because you want it during the daytime. And you wouldn't want to play you want to play Alabama during COVID and Auburn during COVID because they've got, packed houses and raucous fans.
Well, on top of that too, Jeff, all of those big-time Canadian Football League people out there, like the Saskatchewan Roughrider fans, are now obviously going to be rooting for their favorite SEC football team now that their season has been canceled. The Montreal Alouette fans that are, go Dogs. Things like that. Looking right now at, obviously, right? Looking at week 4, LSU at Florida. So there you go.
Wow. That's going to be an interesting one.
Every week this is going to sound like this is because you're playing an all SEC schedule. Like every one of these is like, wow, you've got this game again. And it's like, when do you stop?
LSU, you probably want to, like I mentioned, you want to catch Ole Miss and Mississippi State early because of new coaching staffs. You want to catch LSU as early as possible, too, because they're breaking in a whole new offensive line, a new quarterback, new offensive coordinator. So that's probably advantageous for Florida playing in week 4 instead of week 8.
Will Esminger be able to use that system? Look, if you have an incredible chef, they can come to your house and teach you how to cook. You could pay extra for the cooking classes. Or it's like when, we all have those meals. I saw actually today Andrew McKay, who's been doing a great job on News Radio. He's been doing a lot with the elections and everything going on. Andrew was making like the White Castle sliders. Like he was making the White Castle, they had the whole tray of meat and he was doing it exact. But I'm wondering if it tastes exactly like that. Probably tastes more fresh than those frozen ones that I get because there's no White Castle around here. But you see what I'm saying? Like, is it exactly the same, meaning that when you have it, you get what I'm saying here?
Right.
Is it exactly the same product?
No,
or is
listen, you can hand me a cookbook, and I wouldn't turn into Paul Prudhomme.
No. So
or Jacques Pepin or Julia Child.
Will LSU be able to still do the same system, even though Joe Brady, sort of the mastermind, is
They
not?
can try to run that system, but obviously Brady was a special talent, and it was really executed. The offensive coordination last year, and that Ensminger was the offensive coordinator the previous year whenever they were clunky.
Yeah.
Whenever Burrow threw 15 touchdown passes, the next year he threw 60. So do you think that was Ensminger that made that jump?
And that's a big reason because Miles Brennan, who we expect to be the starter, correct? I mean,
yes.
He's a quarterback that's got talent, but you're right. What we saw with Joe Burrow is an eye opener with coaches and the right system, with the right players. Now, Mike Leach runs a system, but that's great. Luke Falks and the Connor Hollidays of the world can throw for 5,000 yards, Anthony Gordon's like last year. And guess what? Your team can still go out there and lose games because you got no running attack, you have no balance, and your defense is terrible. LSU had the athletes, Jamar Chase guys coming back, with the guy that always had it. And I, as UCF fans like to do, you have family in UCF, so as you're part of us, Jeff, I have to say, we like to take credit on things. And I think it was that horrible hit that was late. Should have been 15 yards on Joe Burrow after the pick six, which we got up and got excited for when we were playing them in the Fiesta Bowl. After that hit, Joe Burrow never lost a football game after that in his career. And he went on to dominate because he was ticked.
Rallied the troops in that game.
So
that was a pretty big deficit. UCF.
We were up 17-3 at one point.
Yeah, and it it looked like you're going to pull back-to-back upsets over SEC teams in bowl games, but LSU was able to find their footing a little bit.
That wasn't the part of the story, Jeff, we need to get to.
But exactly. I didn't want to.
That was ignored. That we just wanted to get to. Let's take credit because the hit we really catapulted his career. So that was the point.
Right, but you've got a family divided, so
that's right. I get 50%. Yeah,
LSU fan.
Oh, I had to walk out the room on that one. Brittany and I were watching it, and Leighton's got her little purple and gold outfit. And I've got my LSU bandwagon outfit because, you got to support them. Got the little bear right there. But the second that game, when we had that pick six, I was up in the other room fist pumping. Nobody was inviting me out there. There was Tom Bailey and I will watch the game. Looking at the matchups right now, though, as we continue through. Week 5 for the Florida Gators. So far, Florida at Ole Miss. You have week 2, South Carolina at Florida. Week 3, Florida at Texas A&M. Week 4, LSU at Florida. And then Week 5, Missouri at Florida. Next week, Week 6, the matchup is their bye week. The next week after that, well, they're in the middle of doing it and processing it. So we're going to go ahead and take a look here as it uploads. No, actually, Week 7.
That's Georgia.
We said Week 6 they were off, and then Week 7 they will play against Georgia. Week 8, Florida will play at home against Arkansas. And then Week 9, this is happening right now as we speak, Florida at Vanderbilt in Week 9. And Week 10 will be Kentucky at Florida. And then Week 11, Florida at Tennessee. So what I see, Jeff, is if you guys can go out there this year and you can get some early wins and get that, Kyle Trask, who is a veteran quarterback compared to some of the other quarterbacks in the league, if Kyle goes back out there and has another phenomenal season early in the season where you have to take on LSU and Texas A&M and some of these, and then if you can find a way to get to that week where you're taking on Georgia, which is week number 7, the coast looks pretty good with Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Tennessee to close the season.
Right. What it sounds like, Chad, is if Florida is able to split with LSU and Texas A&M, of one loss, and then beat Georgia, they're in control of their own destiny with teams that they'll be prohibitive favorites against. So it really does set up nicely.
And they don't have to worry about that Florida State game to end the season.
That's right. That's right.
I wonder if there's any bills or anything get signed if a team was like borderline, like if you needed to win a big game to get in, and that final game be like Florida or Florida State to get to the ACC or SEC title game, be like, you mind, can we sign this game in? Like after that, we've already seen 4 months of like, okay, it's been successful, or it hasn't, but at this point it would be, and they're like, all right, let's sign that back in. Like, let's make this happen.
Well, Ron DeSantis was pushing for that game.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't. He was kind of putting Florida in a very odd position because he's going like, well, I want to see Florida and Florida State. And then the conference is going like, no, we're playing nothing but conference games. And so Florida's in the middle. They don't know who to please. Ultimately they got to please the SEC because that's the conference they're in. Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that we lost the Florida State game because that's a great game. They played 63 consecutive years.
We'll make sure to put the whole schedule out there as well. Some of the other notable games, I'll go through the notable ones. Week 1, the best matchup to me would be the matchup, not the best
Auburn,
matchup.
Kentucky.
So I think Auburn hosting Kentucky is a really good one, and I think also I want to see Mike Leach, Mississippi State at LSU week 1. And then you've got the matchups are Alabama at Missouri, Florida at Ole Miss, Georgia at Arkansas, Kentucky at Auburn, Mississippi State at LSU, Tennessee at South Carolina, and Vanderbilt at Texas A&M. I'd say out of that list, if there's one that I'd like to see to start the year, it would be Mike Leach's system at LSU. I mean, that's the matchup. Now, Florida at Ole Miss with Plumlee out there at quarterback, if he is getting the nod and what we expect, Lane Kiffin. And then you also have Kentucky at Auburn, which should be solid, but I don't see either of those winning their conference or their division this year. So based on that, I got to say it comes down to Florida at Ole Miss or Mississippi State at LSU, and I'll go Mississippi State at LSU.
I think you mentioned was that South Carolina, Tennessee? Also?
Yeah, that's a solid East game right there. That's important for you guys. Yeah,
I think there's really only about 4 competitive games, and the rest of them are blowouts.
Yeah,
and so it'll be it's a way to break your into the season. I bet weeks 2, 3, 4 probably more competitive.
Well, week 2's got a great one. The slate week 2, Texas A&M at Alabama. That's a great game. And then you have Arkansas at Mississippi State. Auburn at Georgia. They're making the oldest rivalry in the South in week 2. They're getting that one right out of the way.
Right. That's usually played in week 10 or 11.
And they usually always have good matchups. I can still remember some guy getting decked right in the face over at Florida-Bama line because Ricardo Lewis's catch and the one that popped up. He was already celebrating like, no man, he caught it, and they just full out brawl. But good music too. There was like a good country band that night too. So guys are just jamming. These guys are full out like Patrick Swayze at the bar. I was enjoying a burger and watching the games. Looking at South Carolina at Florida, you have Ole Miss at Kentucky, LSU at Vanderbilt, and Missouri at Tennessee week 3. Out of those, it comes down to me: Auburn at Georgia or Texas A&M at Alabama. I think Florida's going to – I mean, I know every game sounds more tasty as a Gator fan, but you guys should be able to beat Helinski in South Carolina at home.
Probably would have the advantage there.
Out of those games, I'm going to go Texas A&M at Alabama or Auburn at Georgia.
Well,
that's tough. That's tough either way.
Listen, Auburn, Georgia's always a knockdown, drag out. I think Alabama. I think that'll be a potentially closer game than Texas A&M. Alabama.
Who do you feel is the best team this year in the SEC? Is it Alabama?
I would say I would give Alabama the nod, but I think Georgia's kind of a close second in my mind. Georgia's got an unbelievable defense. They're too deep with tremendous talent, NFL quality talent, and so you're just not going to be able to score on Georgia. That's going to be the problem. I don't know how Georgia's going to move the ball. Florida's going to have to win a rock fight, 17-13 or something like that, if they're going to beat Georgia.
We heard a little today about Jamie Newman not being 100%, about him being out there in a boot in a way, and he's
it's probably a precaution. I mean, we still have 6 weeks till the season starts.
Why would JT Daniel? Why would he want to go there, knowing? I mean, that was Mr. California.
Well, because Newman's just going to be there for 1 year. I mean, Daniel could take a red shirt and still be there for 2 more years. So it's going to give him a chance to play for a national title too.
But isn't the news that, I mean, from what we know, there's a once in a while that kid that comes around, like we saw with Trevor Lawrence, like we saw with Tua. There's a couple of guys like that. Joe Burrow even wasn't that guy. He was a big name when Urban Meyer recruited him at Ohio State, but there's some guys that just have wowed everybody from day one. That's how we're looking at Brock Vandagriff. You know what I'm saying? For 2021. So
2021, but remember, he's going to be a true freshman.
I know, but Jeff, we've seen a lot of true freshmen win national titles even. And usually at the end, Trevor Lawrence didn't even start. It was the injury and then Kelly Bryant situation. Right. Same thing with Tua didn't play until the final half of the game he came into for Jalen Hurts.
And listen, JT Daniels was one of the top pro-style quarterbacks coming out of high school football, and he was playing very well until he got his ACL injury.
Okay, and that's why I just question it a lot from a standpoint of the mental aspect of you're going to a team that already has a quarterback that you want to play now. I mean, he's eligible to go out there.
He probably thinks he can win the job.
I know that, but ultimately he's probably not going to win the job. I know, and there's so many good teams, what I'm saying, and this is before we knew about the Pac-12 and the Big Ten being out. So there's other options. I'm saying, though, I'm very surprised, and it goes back to sort of the Justin Fields when Jake Fromm. He felt like he could win that job too, but he was a Kennesaw, Georgia guy. But there was really only 2 teams at that time, 2 teams that if he went there, that he wasn't going to be the starting quarterback. Whether he felt it or he did was Georgia with Jake Fromm, and at the time, the way that you had Tua at Alabama. Outside of that, we didn't know enough. Even Joe Burrow at that time wasn't the clear cut. He was still off an 8-4 year. And you had Ohio State that wasn't sure that Justin Fields was going to come over. So you had all of these guys pretty much that you still had a chance. You had 2 teams out of, I would say, realistically for an elite quarterback like that, about 25 that, or maybe 15 even, that you really want to play for. I mean, you get out. He doesn't want to go to Colorado or go to a team like Arkansas. He wants to play for that team. And he decided to pick one of the 2 schools that he wasn't going to win the job. That's sort of like this, and I get it. I don't mind anybody going out there and having the confidence to play. But to me, there's so many teams right now that could use a quarterback, and he could have fought for that job right away. And he decided to pick the one where it looks like it's going to be a very tough time winning, whether it's this year or even next.
Well, again, whenever he decided to go to Georgia, he wasn't even cleared through the portal yet. He didn't even know he was going to be able to play this year.
Yeah.
And he's coming off the ACL. So he's probably thinking like, maybe it's a good year for me to rehab and then, fight it out with the true freshman the following year. And Georgia's going to challenge for the national title just every year from now on, probably, as long as they recruit at the same level they're recruiting right now. I thought it was maybe a little curious, but in retrospect, there's a lot of reasons to go to Georgia.
Yeah. Well, it's not always about the stats because it's not the perfect passing team right away, but you're also going to be protected. If you want to play after an ACL injury, if you want to be standing up straight, you probably want to play behind those big dogs up there. They're pretty good at their job. Looking at some of the other games, so for week 3, I'm going to say Florida at Texas A&M is a really good matchup. You have a matchup with Arkansas at Auburn, but that's not. Alabama playing at Ole Miss. Tennessee at Georgia. That's pretty exciting. But I'm going to go with Florida at Texas A&M for Week 3. Week 4, Georgia at Alabama. Huge matchup
Marquee
right there.
Matchup. Yeah,
Marquee.
those are the two best teams in the conference.
Wow, what a week 4. We also got to calm down to be like, man, grab everybody and go hooting and hollering and party. And we are. I mean, places are open. We're going to do it at a distance. And people are I was downtown this week and looking around, and places are open. So football season will be open. But LSU at Florida and Georgia at Alabama Week 4. October 17th. Sweetie, if you're out there listening, we are not making plans for that week. We will be watching LSU at Florida and Georgia at Alabama. That will be our plans. You know my wife.
A great doubleheader. I mean, CBS probably will plan that weekend for their day-night doubleheader.
You and JP now close bonded as Gators.
Absolutely, and I'm going to be a de facto Oregon fan.
Have you talked to Alan about inviting him in now as part of the brethren, of the club? Who's the president this year? Do you know? The decisions have not been made yet.
The president, yes, Lynn Green is.
Okay, so Lynn will have to introduce JP as the newest member of a non-Florida Gator alumni to just act like he's part of the party now.
That's right.
There you go.
Well, JP will bring a lot to a lot of expertise.
That's right. Yeah, well, he will. Yeah, he knows how to party with them. He knows how to hang out, eat some wings, drink beer.
Throw down. Absolutely.
He knows that you're buying. When I make, I'm just kidding. But when it comes down to week 5 of the season,
I will definitely buy for JP any Gator game that he
right.
comes to, and cheers for the Gators. I pick up the tab.
You okay with a Power 4 this year with the American as part of it? A hypothetical Power 4 for 1 year.
Well,
Give us a break here.
This
is just me throwing a bone out here.
I sent out the SEC shorts today, the most recent one, that had Florida. I mean, not Florida, but the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12 in the car, and then the AAC comes up and knocks on the window to try to get in. And they're going like, no, and they jet off, and the AAC guy goes like, well, I guess that's SEC speed there for you.
It's actually even worse this year if we were to make, let's say it was a college football playoff. It would be more unfair this year if we got in, because actually, the year that we played against Auburn, we actually went out and beat Stanford. We beat Pittsburgh. We beat other teams. When I'm saying these, nobody's getting ooh, but we beat South Carolina.
Legitimate
we beat some
teams.
legitimate teams. This year, we're only beating American teams. So, if we get by the Bearcats of Cincinnati, which we didn't last year, or we beat Memphis without Norvell, then we're most likely in.
Well, you know what? That brings up a quandary, though, Chad. I mean, it's a quandary for everybody because there's no out-of-conference games to compare yourselves to other conferences with.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's a closed shop. SEC, I mean, there's nothing to compare. AAC, the fourth conference now, in your opinion, and probably that's the truth. And the ACC and the Big 12 are it's just all a circular shop. And so how are you going to compare those teams? I think you pretty much have to take the champ of each of the 3 big conferences. And then UCF.
That's why. Well, I love that model right there. That
even if UCF's 6-4,
you sold. You got my vote on that just by that comment right there. But it's going to be one of those years. I think most people would say this year. I hope I say most people are like nobody's going to agree with this out of my mouth here. But if there is a year to have it where you try one of these teams out, I think that this would be the year. I mean, meaning that
if you went to an 8 this year, and it might makes sense to go to an 8 because you don't really know who.
And you get some more money where money is being lost for a shorter schedule for the TV rights. I'm just saying,
so you could probably set aside a spot for, one of the non-Power 5, that 8th seed, let them play.
Why don't
a Clemson?
You could do a 6-team where you go ahead and give the 1 and 2s buys, and then let the other one fight it out. But you're not going to do that in college.
No, that's not going to happen. To me, that's a horrible model. The 2-bye thing. What you're doing is you're compromising the number 6 and number 3 team and having them beat the dog out of each other, and then having them play the number 1 to see the next.
So you're
week.
really not you're really not. It's a
sham. It's a sham.
If you had 3 teams that all went undefeated, one team is going to be completely exposed and dismantled when they play the other 2 fresh undefeated teams. But it only works in years that there are certain teams that are clear cut. But that's still not fair. It's still not fair to those conference teams. Right now, frankly, the model in place, I would like to see 8 teams this year and let them play. And if you're Alabama or you're a team like Clemson, who you expect to be one of those, especially now that Ohio State we expect to be out of the mix, there's no Oregon if they had that type of year, I would be fine. I'd be happy to have UCF, who, by the way, is not as good as we lost to Tulsa on national TV last year. So this was 1 year. I'm basking in glory from 3 years ago with an elite quarterback in Mackenzie Milton. So this is not the same team. I wouldn't want to play against Alabama with Dylan Gabriel. It would not be fun because we would get beat by 28, and then everybody would just go, "That's the team." And no, I don't want to be that guy that you had your moment where, like, if Boise State played now, if you have Boise State play against somebody who's elite, not Florida State last year, but if you played against somebody and you went out there, they're going to get beat probably 42-17 by a team like an Alabama or Georgia right now. And those old teams with Kellen Moore that actually did go to Georgia in the Georgia Dome and win, those teams could have competed with anyone. So that's the kind of stuff where it's not fair to a lot of people just label those outside teams as like they've done one thing and that's what they've done forever. Yeah. When, frankly, UCF's team's not even close to what they were at one point. That was a really good football team. This one is not as good, and that's pretty clear. There's nobody in the American this year that's good enough to compete.
I think UCF has established themselves as a quality product. As you mentioned, there was no Tulsa rally last year for UCF. No. They I think they came up a little short, didn't they?
Yes. I think this is fair to go with, I think Florida versus UCF versus Kentucky would be a really good game this year. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah,
I think
I think so.
That's a good football game.
Yeah, I would.
That's
a game that UCF would have a chance to compete and potentially win.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's a game where I'd get up and say spread might be Kentucky -3, and it's like, okay, get up for this. Or it's a type of game where I feel if we played in a picturing us playing against a Georgia or Alabama, I don't want that this year. Not this year. We've had enough. It's been tough enough 2020. I don't need to see that.
It's hard enough for quality SEC teams to match up with Alabama and Georgia.
Looking at some of the other key games for Week 5, Alabama at Tennessee and also South Carolina at LSU. Week 6, you have a matchup between LSU at Auburn. And then Week 7, one of the notable matchups, Florida versus Georgia, and the matchup with Texas A&M and South Carolina. And only 4 games in Week 7. Week 8, you have 7 games, Alabama at LSU. So that was one people were waiting for. November 14th, Week 8, Alabama at LSU. The same week as Auburn at Mississippi State and Arkansas at Florida. Week 9 of the season on November 21st will be Tennessee at Auburn is a pretty solid game. Kentucky at Alabama. Mississippi State at Georgia. Florida will be playing Vanderbilt that week. And Ole Miss at Texas A&M. Week number 10 of our SEC schedule that has been released as of an hour ago. You have November 28th matchup, Week 10, LSU at Texas A&M, Kentucky at Florida, Auburn at Alabama. There's your Iron Bowl, November 28th, which is the same. I mean, these matchups, well, not always. This is the Thanksgiving weekend pretty much.
That's right.
And you've got Kentucky at Florida, which is a little bit
very unusual because Kentucky and Florida.
It's usually Florida State.
Played early in the season.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're not playing at Kentucky this year because Florida does not like playing cold weather.
They're keeping the rivalries that can be played the same, though. You've got Arkansas is going to play Missouri. Tennessee is going to play Vanderbilt. Mississippi State's playing Ole Miss. LSU's playing Texas A&M. And you have Auburn and Alabama. The only ones that are mixed up here, it looks like, is Georgia would usually be playing Georgia Tech, and Florida would usually be playing Florida State. And those two, and Kentucky would play Louisville. And then you would have South Carolina play Clemson. Those are the ones getting mixed. Outside of that, and that's only because all 4 of them would be doing the ACC versus SEC.
Right.
That's the only. All the others are on par. So there you go.
Yeah, that's pretty compelling matchups for that weekend.
Week 11, Florida at Tennessee, Texas A&M at Auburn, Ole Miss at LSU, and Alabama at Arkansas. Some of the key ones right there. So there's your schedule. We got to go to break. We're coming back for more Sports Drive on ESPN Pensacola, Blab TV.
Tiger Point Golf Club in Gulf Breeze is a social distancing paradise designed by Pensacola golfing legend Jerry Pate and run by the #1 golf course management company in the U.S., Troon Golf. Tiger Point Golf Club offers daily specials for military, kids play free with a paying adult, and earn free rounds of golf with the Troon Golf Rewards program. After your round, stop by the Sunset Grill for your favorite Southern cuisine. Book a reservation today at TigerPointGolf.com because when it comes to playing 18 holes in paradise, just point to one place, Tiger Point.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
If you are a collector, investor, or just an avid sports fan, then listen up. Coins, sports cards, and racing collectibles in Gulf Breeze has one of the largest sports memorabilia collections in the area, with new inventory arriving weekly. If Hot Wheels is your thing, they have that too, with old, new, and special edition models to choose from. At Coins, sports cards, and racing collectibles, you can buy, sell, or trade. Located on Highway 98 in Gulf Breeze, Coins, sports cards, and racing collectibles is the place to go to collect either for fun or to invest for profits.
Pensacola's own NFL Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith has some tips for us during this time.
This fight is up to all of us to try to help bend that curve. It's going to take teamwork. It's going to take us to stay committed, stay focused, and stay dedicated to the mission at hand, and that is to keep everyone safe. So be encouraging. Find some support. Find someone to talk to every day to encourage them to keep on continuing in this fight. And we will beat this pandemic.
Hey, this is Jay Williams. You're listening to Sports Drive with Chad Brillante on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back. Sports Drive, ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Hey,
your favorite Nickelback coming back here for you. Right?
Is that Nickelback? I wouldn't know because I don't listen to it.
Look at that. Jay Will. Yeah, Jay Will.
Jay Will is like giving a shout out to Chad.
Look at that. Making it happen.
Telling everybody to listen to ESPN Pensacola and listen to the Sports Drive.
Money well spent paying him to say that. Yeah. But no, he's a. It's been. Hey, we've had some fun interviews. That's one thing. We take this job. We don't take it for granted, but always talk to people the same. But I've had a lot of cool opportunities in this job, so always enjoyed it. Getting people like Joe Theismann in studio, and it's a different lineup. It's a unique lineup. But you know what? I think one thing that you respect too, because you're a sports fan and we enjoy listening, and you're always listening in, and have been part of it. But Jeff, having a different lineup is a good thing. I know, I mean, in football, we want to see the best football. But if it comes to talking about sports, I like to see a lineup that's diverse. I don't want, the Paul Feinbaum show during the season, recently I don't want to hear Daryl in Georgia talk about what he thinks of COVID-19. I don't need to hear any more of that.
Right.
It's been a tough couple months.
I've heard you guys find that without football, the Paul Feinbaum show is not even listenable.
I didn't go that far because we don't want to.
But that's the truth. Though. as soon as football comes back,
it's going to be awesome. Yeah,
it's great. Poor old Paul. Because he just sits there and listens to it.
Yeah,
and tries to be nice to everybody. He's in the past, in the old days, Paul Feinbaum was not nice to everybody. He would pretty much just run you off the air.
If I had to hear one more person say, I'm not against humanity, but, and you're like, okay, the next thing is going to be like, this guy doesn't care whether he's like, I know the last caller's grandma. He just left the funeral, but I'm telling you. And you're like, okay, you know what? That's just not the. Sometimes it just gets, hey, we got football back. It's going to happen this year. High school is, one of these, the announcements talking about getting ready to go for local high school football. The announcement was made last week about August 24th as the date that everybody could go back. Now, each individual area gets to decide what is best for their area. When it comes to Tallahassee, announced right after that they could begin around September 15th. Well, today, Escambia County said fall practice can begin September 7th. So today the news coming out for our local area is that Escambia County can practice on September 7th, and the games will be September 18th. So that's about where I saw it, but that announcement was about a little while ago today.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Pensacola and the Panhandle and the state of Florida all need high school football, and so I'm so glad that they're going to make a go of it.
And Brian Ahutz did a great job of covering the story. I actually got the news. I know him and Brian Lester and a lot of the guys, Eric, and have been working hard on this. We get a lot of the high school information. This city is one that you can only do so much. You know, we cover so much. There's about 4 or 5 sports guys that cover everything going on, and it gets exhausting, but also help each other out in a lot of it. And he's been doing a great job. Brian for the Pensacola News Journal has been doing a great job covering high school sports and made that announcement. I got that information from him about an hour ago. So September 7th will be the start of practice. September 18th, the games will get kicked off for our local area. And I'm hoping – what do you think? I mean, if you're picturing it, do you see bands? Do you see kids in the stands, family?
Well, I don't know.
It's a tough one with high school.
If they're just now kind of firming things up, I don't know what the decree has been relative to
pretty much 3.5 weeks we have.
Social spacing and distancing in the crowd. And if they're anything like college football really has not decided yet about crowd sizes and distancing and so forth. So I would imagine that they'd probably take a cue from college football and probably try to distance people similarly.
Looking at the news when it comes to the NFL this year getting set to go for the season, do you feel what's your take on – well, let's go ahead and do this because this could be a lengthy discussion. We got to go to a quick break. When we come back, I want to get your take on how you see a lot of these young players. Is it going to help or hurt more of these unrestricted, these young guys that aren't going to be able to get a chance at preseason? We'll talk some more on that when we come back. It's a Sports Drive on ESPN Pensacola, Blab TV.
Whoa. The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
Is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing.
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
JP here. At ESPN Pensacola, we are hometown proud. Like the greatest pound-for-pound boxer of all time, Roy Jones Jr.
3-time light heavyweight world champion and former heavyweight champion of the world, future Hall of Fame legend, Roy Jones Jr.
What up? It's your boy Roy Jones Jr. and you're listening to ESPN Pensacola.
Looking for future leaders we can believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Florida. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It includes learning to listen, accepting responsibility, being a good role model, and it's about respect. The result, it transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. This message presented by the Florida High School Athletic Association and the Florida Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
The latest sports news is at ESPNpensacola.com and on Facebook at ESPN Pensacola. Plus, watch Chad Brillante, Coach K, and Sports Call live on our exclusive YouTube channel, ESPN Pensacola 1330. This is Northwest Florida's all sports, all the time station. From Destin to New Orleans, sports fans come here for ESPN and local sports talk. ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Hold on some nerve.
back. Sports Drive, ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Well, some of the big conversations today. Canadian Football League has been canceled, so that will not be happening. That's
CFL.
Yeah.
No.
I was about to buy my jersey. It's not going to happen this year.
No, illegal motion north of the border.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's not going to happen up there. The hockey games, by the way, they're doing a great job in the bubble with the NHL. Edmonton, Toronto, they're going back. Now, it's funny, though. Everybody with optical illusions and the way they can do it, camera angles and things like that picture at Jacksonville Beach when everybody was like, they're everywhere, man. And then you took an overhead view, and it was actually like people in groups of 5, but they were spread out in the perfect area walking. Right. You can change different cameras and things like that. We know that. But they showed a picture of Edmonton and the parking lot and the areas around it, and just looked like a ghost town, like nothing. But then they had another shot of like later on in that game, which wasn't like the come-in shot of like the behind the roads and stuff, and people are walking and eating, and you're like, okay, life is still happening. But
right.
But I think it was funny. I was like, really? I was like, people first saw that probably like, look at that, Canada, nobody's leaving their home. Like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, okay, let's show this angle too. But
well, I think bubbles work.
Yeah.
We watched the Tampa Bay Lightning play 5 overtimes, so they essentially played 2.5 games. And so it ended up, they go, well, we've just decided to bump tonight's later game till tomorrow morning at 10. So you got that kind of schedule flexibility. You sequentially line them up. It's like a double elimination softball tournament or something.
Monday Night Football crew got a new one right here. Steve Levy, Brian Greasy, and Theo Reddick is going to be the new Monday Night Football.
Wow, you know what? That's probably a good idea, because I don't think that the chemistry worked last year with the Monday Night Football team, and those are all good guys, but I think that they're better employed. I mean, they're much better college commentators, I thought, than NFL.
Who's your favorite crew when it comes down to it?
Oh gosh,
not just based on that. Maybe there's more ties. Like you grew up with more Gary and Vern, but now it's Gary and Brad. But that doesn't mean because
I really do like Gary and Brad, and a lot of people I know. The SEC fans don't like Gary Danielson for whatever reason. I know Alabama fans complain about him, but to me, he's very candid and very good. And Brad is a terrific.
Well, he's got the toughest job in the world. Think about it. I know I make fun of myself a lot, but we live here in the South, and people, when you start bringing up things about a football team in the South, if LSU's playing Alabama and you pick LSU to win, or you pick Alabama to win, you're going to be hated by half of the audience out there for a long time. And just because and that's why Gary Danielson says things. If you have Florida Georgia playing, and he's like, this Gator guy, he can't cover his shoelaces, and he couldn't, and then everybody else is like, I hate him, and then the next week he'll make a comment about the other one, and it's
he tries to be fair, fair to everybody, and be accurate in his reporting. But SEC football fans are extraordinarily partisan. So they're it's like, if you don't say everything right about Alabama or Florida, you're
right
out the window.
Yeah, I sadly think he does a great job. Gosh, I can't believe I'm admitting this. Alex Rodriguez, I enjoy listening to him on baseball.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I know you're not an Alex Rodriguez fan.
Oh, I hate Alex Rodriguez, but he's done a great job as a broadcaster.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, enjoyed today's show.
Enjoyed it very much, Jeff.
Got to talk football. I'm excited.
Yes, I mean, we've got something to talk about.
That's right. I'm looking forward to it.
This is ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Pensacola's home for hometown sports. Your home to talk football with Coach K, Sports Drive with Chad Brillante, and Sports Call with Davis Allen. If you'd like to partner with ESPN Pensacola or become a sponsor, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEVY, Milton, Pensacola.
I'm Steve Lennox. 76ers and Celtics underway in the third quarter. Game 1 of their first-round playoff series on ESPN television. Celtics right now up 65-59. Jason Tatum leading the way for the Celtics. He had 21 in the first half, now 25 for the game. Sixers shot 56% from the field in the first half, but also had 13 turnovers. Earlier, Raptors 22 threes, 8 from Fred VanVleet, and a 24-point win against the Brooklyn Nets. VanVleet 30 for the Raptors, who had 7 players in double figures. Nuggets in overtime beat the Jazz 135-125 in Game 1 of their playoff series. Donovan Mitchell establishing a new playoff franchise record with 57 in the loss for Utah. Mavericks and Clippers, they will conclude day 1 of the NBA playoffs in Orlando. ESPN NBA analyst Jalen Rose on what Luka Doncic can expect in his first career playoff series.
And they're going to suffocate him to the point where he's not going to be as efficient as we're used to watching him be. But he's so very good, he's going to have his times where he gets used to how they're playing him and has his explosive moments where he scores and puts up big numbers.
Mavericks and Clippers scheduled to tip in a little over an hour on ESPN TV. Kevin Winter has NBA Countdown on ESPN radio affiliates coming up in 30 minutes. SEC has released its 2020 football schedule. Alabama, Georgia scheduled to meet in Tuscaloosa on October 17th. Alabama plays on the road in Baton Rouge against LSU on November 14th. Cowboys lost one of their top free agent signings from the offseason, Gerald McCoy, for the season. McCoy tore his right quad in practice today and will require surgery.
Hey, Sagats, join us Tuesday. Greg Cody's in as our guest co-host. Hopefully that means a fresh back in my day. Plus, we'll talk animals with Ron McGill. That's Tuesday on the Dan Le Batard Show with me, Sagats, on ESPN Radio.
One, two, three, ho!
This is Spain and Fitz on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and SiriusXM Channel 80.
Oh, the playoffs have begun, and it feels so good. Instead of watching bubble games that are glorified exhibitions, today we've finally gotten playoff basketball in the NBA, and it leads to a real conversation. Today has also been the relaunch, or the launch, I should say, of a new lineup here at ESPN Radio. And we had a host earlier in the day that waxed philosophically about Kawhi, and I totally disagree with everything he said. Before we get to any of that, though, it's Spain and Fitz on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests join us on the show, Pennzoil Performance Line. We're going to take you all the way into Mavs Clippers. That's tonight. Coverage begins on ESPN Radio starting at 8:30 Eastern, 9 o'clock on ESPN. You guys can get in now because it's the beginning of the playoffs. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. What we're going to do is give you 30 seconds to stump for your NBA team in the playoffs. Tell me why your team's going to win it all. 30 seconds to stump for it.
So before we get to these,
yes,
during the commercial, we actually got another voicemail from Sarah.
Oh, so, okay. So Sarah's not here.
She's so much for vacation.
She's in wine country, sitting back enjoying cheese and wine. I'm imagining that it's a nice, like, full-bodied red. Like, she seems complex with the wine she's going to drink as opposed to, like, the cold Riesling that I would want. So she's got, like, the nice red and then a plate of fancy cheeses. I can only picture this. So let's see what Sarah now has to say.
Hey, Fitz, it's Spain. Hope you're good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still on vacay. Work hard, play hard. But you got this, right? Just, think of it sort of like an extended fiddle solo in the middle of a country song while the lead singer / superstar / moi grabs a whiz and a beer. So just keep things high energy while I'm gone, okay? Bye.
Wow. Okay, first of all, there's no such thing as an extended fiddle solo because that implies that any fiddle solo shouldn't be extended, which is wrong. Second, Sarah's not wrong. Can we do a peek behind the curtain real quick? By the way, one of the grossest things ever when I was on tour, I used to tour, for anyone that doesn't know, with the band Perry, and we did a long tour at one point with Rascal Flatts. And I was amazed when we went out on the tour. They had like a little roped off area that had curtains and just a bucket on the ground. And I was like, why are there curtains in a bucket? Yeah, it's a pee bucket. Every once in a while, Gary LaVox just had to go to the back of the stage and, got a tinkle. And there's no easy way to do that during the middle of a show. So there's your fun fact you didn't ask for. NBA Mondays, the NBA playoffs are on ESPN Radio. Tune in tonight as Luka and the Mavs battle Kawhi and the Clippers, presented by Indeed. Coverage begins at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations. Before we get to my take here on Kawhi, let's get one of these in. You got 30 seconds. Once we say go, we're going to go to the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We're going to start with Donald in OKC. So, Donald, we got you. Are you ready for this, Donald? When I say go, you got 30 seconds to stump for your favorite team to win it all in the playoffs, and your time starts now.
Go. It's all about leadership. Chris Paul is a leader. Chris Paul, 20-10-7. America, take notes. Without a leader, you have no basketball team. Without no leader, you will not be able to see the Thunder in 7. Thank you. There is the take. OKC Thunder up 2020.
Look at that. Donald didn't even need all